Lightening's okay. Welcome. Welcome to the live stream. Kenny Veach case once again. Some say one is late, and now one chooses the time when just right and perfect. Welcome to those watching in the background and whatnot. I'm going to be touching upon the Kenny Veach case, UFOs, discussions there. It's open, not too focused, but open enough to show about. Got some announcements in regard to upcoming videos, what to expect on the channel. There appears to be a bit of traction as well in the background, so that helps as well. A credit to Leela for their suggestion in recent time with the Kenny Veach case. It just so happens that upon asking questions here and there in the background, it appears that some places haven't been searched properly or at all. So it means there is still unfinished business out there. Just take it as we go along. I will be multitasking tonight because the football is on, so I've got the device just above me whilst I'm doing the live stream. Got to be multitasking. Both things are just as important. And hopefully Haaland scores because I've got him as captain in fantasy football. So if there's anyone watching in the background, watching the football, let me know. Make sure it's on live and everything. Let's just see who's present in the chat. We've got Travis, Leela, Maddie, Sonny, Harry. There's a lot of names ending in Y. And then anyone else that may be watching, shout out to those. Shout out to those watching in the background. Coding a weather app. Nice. I've got a couple of things to refer to. I don't know if Jeff Clark will show up or not. Oh no, who just scored then? I don't think it counted. Wait, who's in what kit colour? I should have questioned that before. Is City in white or in black? I can't tell. So, where should we start first of all? Let's do the video announcements, as in the plan and what can be coming up ahead. So ideally tomorrow or day after, I'm focusing in on probably a map analysis, the Tickaboo Peak. I feel that needs to be ticked off the list because it's an event that's happened some months ago. It needs some awareness tied with Kenny Veach. Now, could be summarized right now, to be honest, but yeah, visually it can also be done. I'm just thinking, due to who it was by, the possible intentions and reasons, they didn't want anyone up there. They didn't anyone want to see or observe Area 51 from a distance. Oh shit, we forgot to say Slytherin. Yes, we got Slytherin watching as well. Forgot about that. Oh no. Wow. 7 minutes in. Wow. So yeah, as for the announcements, yeah, tomorrow or the day after, going to be focusing in on Tickaboo Peak. I'm not surprised. Well, you've been wearing your invisibility cloak. I think we'll do okay with the lighting for now. I probably will turn it on a bit after, unless the second device casts a bit of light. I'll just test how that works. See how that goes. We have Jake. Hi, Raf. Have you heard that Sharon is a con artist? But she never had a license in her readings. She just made things up. So did you just stumble upon that, or have you known about that for some time? When did you first encounter that information? I think DJ Moore may have done some research on that. We got Mia. Welcome. Okay. So once I've got the video on Tickaboo Peak done, make links and references to Kenny, of course, because of the aim, the location, the possibilities behind that. Then it'll be on to the archived material. The archived material is what people have come across along the way with the use of Wayback Machine. That does actually help quite a bit. I've not been able to use it, and I tried in the past. It just doesn't work for me. Typical. If it had worked, I would have tried doing it sooner. But with credit to those in the background, which I'll check in after, if possible, give credit as well publicly. It was very useful. So I can share that, analyze it as well, of course, analyze the language, the wording, the possible meanings behind it. What does it support? Some material never seen before. Got Travis bringing it up about Sean's hike footage. Kind of interesting, that. It actually is. Mitchell, do you think, considering his phone and backpack were discovered next to the mineshaft, that he could have fallen into the mineshaft? We've got Trident. Welcome, Trident. Area 52. Huh. So, Mitchell, Kenny's phone and coins were found at the mineshaft. Kenny Veach's backpack is still missing till this day. So whatever Kenny did, he supposedly put certain items down, but he carried on or he disappeared with his backpack. There was one YouTuber that had brought it up about coming across a backpack that looked like Kenny Veach's, but nothing was done about it. Crazy. I don't know if I did a video on it. I feel like I did. I'd have to look back. Could it be on the Internet Archive? I just got a D&D commercial. What does D&D mean? Dungeons and Dragons? Is that where it is? Yeah, not bad. There's some good adverts. Nothing dodgy yet, I hope. I hope not. Warlock. Oh, no. I remember suddenly there was a time where some person on YouTube used to call me Warlock Ref, and it's so cringe. I don't know if they're doing it on purpose or by accident, but I don't know. I don't know if people do it on purpose, but they tend to spell it wrong as well. Muddy coins would make no sense because he could have left them in the car. Makes me wonder, really. Yeah, it's unusual about the coins. The only thing that I would say, Maddie, if Kenny Veach had the phone in the same pocket as his coins, and maybe normally you wouldn't do that because of fear of it scratching the screen, but if it was in the same pocket, it would make sense. You dig your hand in and you pull the phone out the pocket, but maybe you turn the pocket inside out so everything just falls out. The problem is we don't know the condition of Kenny's phone. Was it smashed? Was it broken? Was it gently put down? Was it thrown down? Done in a rush? Just no clue. I mean, we don't know what type of coins, as in, well, I don't even know the bloody currency over there. I mean, like in the UK, you can have like a 10p coin or a 20p coin or a pound, 50p, £2. That's the max in coins. So I don't know what it is in the US, but did Kenny have loose coins which would have been used or for parking, for accessing the trolleys or cards? Can't say it properly. 50p, 50 cent. Apparently it was fine according to ChatGPT, and Google Phone was still okay. Yeah. And the other view on the channel that mentioned about Kenny's vehicle being found there, which did not match the actual description of his normal vehicle, said it was white, which is weird. That's what Google AI said when I double checked, and weird because these details, what they know, yet we've never heard of publicly before. It's always a possibility that the AI and etc. is lying, which isn't good. So we've got to be careful with that. Makes me think all that AI has probably been influenced and being used by those Indians and other dodgy people out there. Well, not like quite like that, but dodgy people as in they're not putting in the effort, not putting in the time. They just randomly max it up. And as well, even on Facebook, there was a post, I think it was like some Indian channel referring to Kenny Veach with his friend both going missing. What? Kenny Veach did not go with a friend. What's that all about? Weird. Now, one thing that should and could be looked into to try and locate Sharon Pilgrim's comments. Not that they've been deleted, but they're very hard to find. Some particular ones, like where Sharon actually confirmed that Kenny had a missing camera from the house. As much as people like to regurgitate what she originally said, Kenny's original camera was left behind. Another one was missing, so he likely took it with him. Still missing, and wasn't left at the mine shaft either. So that's got to speak volume. I'll try and find maybe the screenshot of that. Maybe some other pieces as well. Honda CRV white, according to search and rescue on ChatGPT. And it's interesting that you say it mentioned it on ChatGPT. I tried it on Google AI and it said the same thing. So consistency, but is it consistently correct or what? Because if it is true, what the hell's Kenny doing with a white car when that's not normally his? Is it rented? Oh, yes. Yeah. So I'm not getting too excited just because Haaland scored and he's my captain. Come on. I'm going to beat myself in a second. That's good, that. Nice. Oh, I needed that. Yeah, I'm watching football. I thought I'd disclose that at the start because if you hear me saying, yes, more, you'd probably be thinking, what am I really watching? But I do need more. I need more. I need more goals. I need to whack it into the net. Who got the assist, fam? Is it a person called Cherky? What an unusual name. I could just call him Turkey. Are you what do you support or have any teams you support, Harry, in football? Ooh. Bloody hell. What a header. I put the audio on mute though because I don't want it to cause any copyright conflict with YouTube, you know. I don't know if a new feature's been added or not. Probably not. Might have to look into that. Supposedly, YouTube has enabled some gift thing like stickers, emojis, not super chats, but like virtual animations on screen, which seems quite exciting. You know, like TikTok during live streams. I don't think it's available on horizontal live streams like how it is now, but vertical, I think it's possible. So what I will do another time just to test it, or just to see if it actually shows up. Oh shit, it's already happening. Damn. There we go. We've got some gold coins. Hey, there we go. This is perfect timing, Trident. Shout out to Trident giving those Kenny Veach coins from the mine shaft. There we go. We wondered where they ended up. Trident had them all this time. There we go. Nice. Yeah, I just saw that little glimpse. There must be one of those things where it doesn't show up on my screen because I'm probably the creator, but it will show up for other people. Nice. Kenny's coins. Wow, what a coincidence that is. But yeah, big shout out to Trident. Much appreciated. Mitchell, could the vibrating sensation he reported feel like infrasound from nearby wind or military base? A nearby military base, not too far from military land at least. If we're talking about a specific base, over 30 miles from Nellis Air Force Base and about 55 miles from Area 51 base. However, we're talking about like wind and the breeze, linking that in. When I think of what's it called, exploring abandoned mines in unusual places, when he claimed to have come across the M cave or a M cave, and he got close into it, he said there was a crack in the wall and he could feel a breeze coming out. That was just a feeling of a breeze, but you know. And to be honest, you think of Picture Canyon as an example. When it gets narrow, it becomes like a bit of a wind tunnel as well. Harry, can I share a screenshot of this weather pod sort of stuff for? Yeah, you can do. Now, I don't have the link with me as in the Discord link. I can't share it right now because of I haven't got like a second device available. But next time I do a live premiere or whatever it is, I'll post a Discord link in the live chat. It's a way of sharing research photos in a more efficient way, and it's worked up to now, which is good. We got Crypto, welcome. I think his phone and his computer would lead him. He would have done some type of research to places he would go, surely, and maybe follow natural springs. So welcome. Just want to make one last thing. Welcome to anyone else watching this live stream. Those watching in the background, if you're new here, if you just joined on in, feel free to hit the thumbs up, the like button, to share the awareness, share the video. And I appreciate those watching in the background and the emojis too. I see you. So that's all good. Harry, I don't want to throw it up, cause confusion. It's fine, just one link. You never know, it could help in some way down the line. You never know. Just see what the best tab is on Discord to share it in, because there's enough different tabs to make use of. It's a place where you might go to take pictures. Yeah, so what I want to say is, in terms of the last video that was done, it has gained traction in recent time, which is obviously really positive to see, because something like that hasn't happened in over a year, if not longer. The last Kenny Veach video that was done is currently at 4K. So it means 4,000 people have been able to learn about the case and see a new location. Reached out to some people in the background, like hikers, and they've said that they've not been in that area in particular. They may have been near, but they've not been up there, as in Wagon Canyon. That's a positive. It shows that there is still areas to take a look at or consider at least. And because it's quite close to the possible area where Kenny could be, that's a positive in its own right. We've seen Scott Natal and SB go much further, such as Hidden Forest Ridge. What's it called? Enchanted. Is it Enchanted Forest? I sometimes get mixed up with the name of the healing store. It's got a similar name, Forest, the Reiki healing one. Hidden Forest Trail, Hayford Peak, you know, over that way, further on. But you can get to that easier and park up and explore up there. But the section in between hasn't been covered as much. It's basically Sean Horlacker claimed to have been in the area of Jay Silverheel's search area, but in regard to Wagon Canyon, bit of a mystery. So there's still things to look at, which is obviously a good thing, I would say. I just want UFOs. I would have arrived sooner. Yeah, talk about UFOs as in, how does it link to the location with the UFOs? How does it link to Kenny Veach? Now, I did a interview with the UAP Report Center, some guy called Joe on YouTube. Some of it was about UFOs. The rest was about the case and whatnot. It just reminded me to bring it up. Jeff Klaus mentioned UFOs as well, and Bob Lazar. It's interesting. Kenny Veach's sister-in-law, Susan Veach, Susan said one of her ex-partners did work at Area 51. That had been the odd other person in the chat that said that as well. Interesting. The Honda, maybe he knew someone knew his car going out there. A rental. Now, renting a car is kind of interesting in a way. There was no mention of Kenny's original vehicle being broken or having issues. Renting a vehicle is very normal, but in this case, is it like the equivalent of renting or using a temporary phone, a burner phone, but you're using a disposable vehicle, but not quite intended that way in terms of the agreements? But I guess it depends, really. Travis, my father worked at Area 51 as a firefighter in the Air Force. Nice. I like how low light ref, it makes you look more mysterious, creating an atmosphere of wonder. Don't worry, just it'll get even more wonderful when it's completely black and all you can see is my white teeth as I smile. Well, if I smile. Huh. Harry, just be a photo or two for feedback for now till it's published. That's fine. I mean, at the end of the day, this weather type stuff could be of use. Weather, if it could be applied to hikes, plans, searches, even in the past with Kenny, how was the weather? What was the temperature like back then? Who knows? It could be applied in many different ways. Oh, we need another goal. Welcome to anyone else that has joined along. Just as a heads up, there are more videos coming on Kenny Veach in the coming days. Tomorrow will be focusing, tomorrow or the day after, on Tickaboo Peak, military intervention taking over. Very shocking considering they had the intent to take over the land where Kenny Veach was hiking originally. Proposed takeover didn't work out, but okay, they try again. This time they got what they wanted, but further on. What will be the next place the military take over? And why do they need to take over that land? Is it because what's on that land, what's under that land, or just because it's close to what's ahead on restricted land? When Kenny Veach was out there, did he get kidnapped, abducted by aliens? What we've got to consider is, with the references we talked about earlier, the phone coin being left at the mine shaft, conditions somewhat unknown. Kenny's scent ended at the mine shaft. There was no trace or sign of him in the mine shaft. And even years later, when hikers went inside of it, no sign of Kenny. So does that mean that Kenny just disappeared into thin air? Was something lurking? Did something come on by and take him? I mean, there are some examples. I might turn the light on shortly because I can't actually read the bullet points beside me, which is clever. EJ, hi, have you missed much? Not too much. One thing you did miss, EJ, is there's a new gift option where you can send either little emojis or animations. And let me just check the name again. Is it Trident? Trident sent some coins, but the timing of it is when we were talking about Kenny Veach's coins, and it looked almost identical in a way. Anyway. What notes do we have? So if we're talking about UFOs, we've heard prominent figures like, is it David or is it Paul? Is it Paul Polides or David Polides? Oh, there we go. I Just Want has become a member. Welcome. Thank you for joining. Much appreciated. I would have like more links to share, but I don't think I can when I'm doing a live. Ideally, I probably should have my second device with me. David Polides actually shared his thoughts within the Noah Presgrave case, claiming that Noah Presgrave was going to be kidnapped by aliens, and that's why he was found on the highway. Yeah, that's a bit ridiculous, to be honest, because the information retrieval and how it was delivered was really poor. It might be hard to believe, but it was really poor delivery. I don't think it should be with true crime, if I'll be honest with you. As for that other case on the sideline, is it Lindsay Clancy? That one? I've not done any videos on that. I don't know if it would be any traction or reference if I did like a vertical live stream, target more people to bring in. I mean, I don't know anything about it. I don't know how long it would take to learn, but a psychological analysis of Lindsay Clancy. Oh my goodness, if I gave an unpopular opinion, I can imagine the amount of people that would come in scratching and clawing me, maybe. That'd be interesting, you could say the least. Who was the other one? Todd Grande, a psychologist or so. Todd Grande analysed Dylan Rounds and other cases and wasn't exactly done too well. So I had to step in and give my thoughts, but, you know, it happens. But location for Kenny Veach. Where did he relocate if that's the case? Taken by air, vanished into air. There's been those mystery cases. There was one old one way back in the past where a guy was on a train. I think this was really way back in the past, on a train, and a witness just saw a person just vanish into thin air on a train, just like that. Even more reason and possibilities to just disappear if you're out in the open with no witnesses about and you're trying to look for an elusive M cave. You made your presence known online, and military want to take over that land shortly after. It's like the military don't like the idea of people going there because Kenny put it on the map and found something no one else did because no one else knew about it. It's interesting because Scott Natal went hiking in the area over time, SB Vegas too, and both of them have found ropes in interesting areas, which stands out. I don't know if any the person's there, but 4949 shooter in regard to the trail cameras and well, trail camera. And when Scott Natal went out there on a previous hike back in probably 2022, up that way, which you're supposed to look back to the map analysis for reference and location, Scott came across more ropes as well. Feels like there's a lot of other people going out there just for the side activities of scaling. Oh yeah, Harry, did you see the GTA reveal? UFO stories. Yeah, so one story I just won is on the 93 highway, which isn't too far from Kenny Veach's hike route. It's a bit further on. I can't remember, it's somewhat north. You'd have to check back at my video, but it was a person, I think they were called Paul, or at least the last name was called Sean, in the 90s. And they were at work one day and they had a voice in their head telling them to go to Area 51. Bit random. They ignored that thought and were on the way back home. And when going down the 93 highway in the distance, they saw a bright light. As they carried on going down that highway, they stopped, got out the vehicle, and looked up, and there was a big UFO just hovering about. It was quite low down as well. I believe there was maybe 8 to 9 blue lights. And it was just hovering there for a few minutes, and then it took off, shot off fast, and disappeared. Interesting because of the location and the flight path as well. We got to consider that as well, the flight path, which could link with UFOs and travel. You got the Janet jets that come and go into the city, Las Vegas. On the outskirts east, you've got Nellis Air Force Base. Further north, I think it's like kind of like northwest, you've got Area 51, 50 miles on. And then elsewhere, you've got Creech or Creek Air Force Base. 3 military bases close together, relatively speaking. That much military presence and technology in the background, and if it's connected with UFOs and anything else, hidden away, locked away, Kenny Veach, in the middle of nowhere, arguably, stumbles upon something, claims to have found it, M cave. For it to lead to military wanting to take the land over a year later, it kind of implies that did Kenny find something the military didn't want anyone to find? And whatever it was, the cave, the entranceway, what's inside the contents, does it have any link to UFO, Alienware, and not Alienware gaming PCs, but alien technology, other equipment? And maybe was it paired with military equipment, access denial systems, certain sound waves, certain sensations created to scare, to push people away, which caused the vibrations? Maybe the vibrations weren't dangerous, but it was a deterrent. Remember the thumbs up button. Yeah, appreciate that. Anyone else watching, feel free to hit the thumbs up on this live. And I don't know if it's possible on live streams, but if possible, see if you can hype the video or hype the live, if that does work. Maybe he made him change his identity if he saw or found something at all. You never know. Of course, look at it this way. The more UFO stories that occur within Las Vegas and onwards, not just the Nevada desert, but the Mojave Desert, Little Mermaid Canyon, around that area, the more concentrated activity that happens out there, UFO related, I think the more interesting it is. And you got to look for those patterns and trends, of course. 2019, military drone flying over the area, bit creepy in a way, that drone. J-Chuck's been out there, seen military helicopters, jets flying on over, probably just doing training and pressing and demonstrations, whatever. But still, military presence, other things going on. You're in the middle of nowhere. You haven't really got much reach for help or support. You're out there solo, like Kenny Veach was, and came across it. The one thing that separates Kenny from everyone else, arguably speaking, is Kenny claimed to have found the M cave. Everyone else has tried, but maybe they've not found the one. And maybe, just maybe, that's what separates Kenny's outcome from everyone else. But the reason why Kenny disappeared is because he found it. Whether that be finding it on his first go and then somehow not being able to find it afterwards, but by going out there, it put a marker on him anyway, and there was a silence, there was a marker put on him. Or Kenny did find it eventually in the end, and that's why he disappeared. Like a comment in recent times said, if you want to find Kenny, you got to find the M cave. You want to find the M cave, you got to find Kenny. It goes hand in hand together. Maddie, you don't see UFOs here in South Africa, they would be stolen or stripped. That's one way. I wish the alien technology I find, but I might accidentally vaporize my foot. The other references with UFOs is Ewu Crew. If you've heard of Ewu Crew, the originals, where you had Emma, you had the father Bob, both of them went out back then and talking to some expert. I guess maybe more to do with UFOs, I can't remember. They're out in the desert. They weren't up Little Jermaine Canyon, but I guess they weren't that far from it either. And they actually went out there afternoon, evening time. It did get pretty dark, and they were just stood about talking about the case and backstory of the area and whatnot, and mentioned about, oh, we've not seen any UFOs. And then suddenly, Emma catches one flying over, and it's the motion of it as it dips up and down. It's unusual movement. It's got like slow and fast, wavy like movement. Doesn't seem normal. Could it have been a drone? Who knows? Could it have been military related? Who knows? The other thing is, I believe it was 2025 where you had the triangular shaped UFO flying about on a few occasions, and one of which was caught by I believe, a fighter pilot in the sky. Was it thermal imagery, black and white, which captured the object moving in the sky, which looked kind of eerie and spooky. But because of the shaping of it, it could match a possible stealth fighter or a stealth bomber of some sort. But it's interesting if the military are saying, oh, what's this unusual thing? Surely you'd think the military would know about it if it's their own aircraft or they're in communication with theirs. Is there ever a possibility that sometimes people will play up UFOs, whether that be government or military or other people in the background, really play on it, but in such a way that they make a mockery out of it so people are less likely to believe in it? Could that happen? Let me just catch up on Harry's comment. Yes, I looked at GTA. It looks good. Yeah. When it came to that compound living arrangement where the gang was walking on in, I like the visuals, the graphics, the way the hair was moving and everything. And that's on PlayStation, so that's promising because, there's more scalability possibly with PC in the future. But when I went to that compound, walking through, the lighting was on point. Graphically, it was all good. The problem what I had, Harry, was when it showed the clip of them leaving and it was like daylight driving about. Okay, it looked really blurry. Motion blur you can turn off. Okay. It just felt like maybe the contrast was a bit dark, or felt like it was lacking a bit of saturation. It felt like a bit like AI trying to make it seem, I don't know, a bit more darker, but at the cost of losing a bit of light, a bit of color in a way. It was like certain moments of the gameplay looked sharp and good, especially at night or when it was a bit dark, but daylight when moving about and driving, it just then it was patchy or dark, the blur, maybe that didn't help as well. I wonder if it's the vignette or is it chroma aberration or something? There might be settings which you can change in the future, but I would say arguably this time round with time and, considering what can make a game last longer, the mechanics added in this time round, which is similar to Red Dead, I can accept it this time round because I think enough times passed. When I played the original Red Dead Redemption, I liked it how it was. I didn't want it to change. It did change. It wasn't to my liking, but with GTA, I think it works for that period. Just see how it goes. Extra little features, providing it doesn't make it a chore. Don't want too much realism. Sometimes too much realism can make it a bit boring because the whole point of playing video games is to escape from real life. If video games become like real life, there's no escape. So the story style it seemed a touch cringy, but graphics are good. Okay. I just hope that the single player gets a decent amount of content and that the multiplayer is solo friendly in a sense. Because GTA long term is normally dominated by the multiplayer. I just wish, and I might be wrong because I've not played it in a while, I just wish there was more added to the single player over time as well. So it could actually work out there, but I don't know. I don't think they gave a release date on PC when it's coming out. Some people said maybe a year later or so. Oh goodness, what am I gonna do? What am I gonna do? Whenever I can contact Rockstar and say, please can you release it February 18th of 2027 or something? Bring it early. It's my birthday. Try and convince them. Probably won't. What score is it? Still 1-0? Come on, we need more goals. I need more goals. I need more points. Please. I hope the aliens will have lovely British names like Harry, Molly, EJ. I've never talked about this, but I did see a UFO, about 7 of us on the beach about 2 in the morning. Very bright light was above us. No sound, no wind. Then the light was gone. On one occasion, oh, just let me know in the chat. Do you want the light turned on yet? Because it is getting a bit dark. Just let me know. Let me know if you want the light on. You want the light to shine? Okay. I'll put the light on now. Might be a bit easier on my eyes as well, and then I can actually see what I'm looking at on the paper. Let there be light. Okay, I will do it. I'll even clap as well. Not that it's going to be in sync. Delayed. Don't matter. I should have had a spider set up on the wall, so when I turn the light on, you would have just seen it dangling. I wasn't prepared. So, to also mention, I think it's Bob Lazar, tall, white, alien greys coming and going from mountains near or around military bases. Maybe. But likely mountains and areas where you wouldn't be able to access to begin with, unless by some chance there was some mountains where Kenny was hiking, stumbled upon something. But I think the mountains, you need enough elevation and height because they're all very low and narrow. You're going to crash proper big mountains on the side of them to come in and out. Some articles, it was mentioned online that UFOs can come and go from underground, underwater bases. I don't know what the nearest ocean or how far away the ocean is from Jeremy Canyon. You had the water where Jay Chuck was. It couldn't have been Lake Mead. Was it Lake Mead or Grim Lake? You can't go there, but I think it's too shallow for UFOs there. I have smart lights outside and drive my neighbour's batty with the light changes. Oh no. Leela, would you rent a PO box so people can send you? Oh my goodness, when I read that quickly, I thought that said clamps, and I thought, what am I clamping? Well, Leela, some people have sent stuff in the past. I've done it privately in the background, and it has worked. In terms of the tops, what you saw, the pink one, Whip God, and then the cat top. And then I can't remember if there was anything else. Person from Switzerland was able to send it, so I was appreciated. I even got a gorilla postcard because they knew that I like gorillas. The other thing that seems to be popular at the moment online, and I kind of like the look of them too, is it the capybara? Those big fuzzy things. They look good. Not that you have to send a real one to me. My goodness. That'd be unusual. An unboxing of a capybara. Like a cappy plush one. I've seen those giant ones as well in the US. I don't know how you'd fit that. Wouldn't be fitting through the letterbox. I just want you have a special nipple emoji, but no alien or UFO. Wow. To be honest, I just want if you used to get a magnifying glass, which doesn't say much about the size of what I've got, as in nipples, but if you use a magnifying glass, you will notice that my nipples have an outer ring like a flying saucer. So take that into consideration. I've got 2 UFOs on me right now, but they're not taking off. So with Area 51 related military land, the different sectors and numbers, but also shared with Nellis Air Force Base, as in the Nellis Test Bombing Range. So it is shared. Different military groups, different presence, and Kenny what caught up within it all. Doesn't have to always be military solely responsible. It could be UFOs, where it's directly alien intervention and an abduction, or if it be alien related equipment material, whether it be stored there, hidden there. I mean, I'm not saying it is, but sometimes like there's claims of UFOs coming from the sky or crashing. Was one of it called the Roswell incident? But these UFOs that may have crash landed, tucked away, hidden away, and if it's in land which most people don't reach, did Kenny Veach stumble across parts of Alienware UFOs? I mean, I don't know how close it is within the area, but on satellite imagery, there's the odd military-related aircraft which has crashed, and there's parts and pieces in the mountaintop areas. Jay Silverheels, Jeff Clark had covered that a bit online. It was SB Vega's Adventures that came across some interesting items. I don't know if it was a satellite or some kind of electronical equipment. Oh my god, is it half time or? Oh no, that was earlier on. Oh, you bastard! So that was ruled out, not as a goal. Bastard, that would have been my player as well. I want a rock. What type of rock? I just want. I never thought of nipple UFOs. Well, I guess you have now. I have a shiny one. Okay. It's like volcanic rock or obsidian rock. The shine on that obsidian. That looks nice. M Cave rock. Well, speaking of the so-called M Cave rock, the covered M Cave, a rock, a boulder more so, which was quite heavy, was pried off at one point in the past. Why exactly? Who knows? I think what may have started it all off with Kenny Veach, I would say, which may have made him a target, is he's one to claim to have known what he's found, and he made it public in the first place on, of all videos, son of an Area 51 technician. Of all videos you could comment on, that one in particular. And because it had lots of views anyway, that channel, isn't it interesting how a few years later, Kenny Veach's final comments and remnants online were completely deleted? Now, would those archives still exist? I mean, technically, they do exist, as in people screenshotting and posting online and whatnot, but it's not like the original point of view, though. At the time, was by a nuclear power station, so it might be UFO spying. Oh, is that from your experience? As for UFOs, have I had any experiences? I came across what I thought was one, but then in the end, supposedly it was a drone, the way it was moving. But sometime in the past, 5, 6, 7 years ago, thought I came across a UFO in the sky at night. I saw like an orb shape and it was just slowly moving. It reminds me, Sean Horlacher, Kenny Veach cave investigator, claimed to have seen UFOs. I don't know if you've noticed that, Travis. It was yet another video on Sean's channel, which is no longer there. This was after 2019, the hike, I believe. Sean was outside in his garden, looking up at the sky, and it was like lots of different orbs in the sky, and some faded away. The other counter or suggestion was it may have been flares, military related, aircraft at night testing, deploying flares, but different interpretations. Another time it felt like I experienced a UFO, but more so the sound of it. When I was in bed, I believe the curtains were closed, but the window was open, and I heard a hovering sound outside the window. It seemed low down. It definitely sounded like some type of aircraft that was present, but it was more of a hovering sound, not the normal. It wasn't a helicopter sound, and it wasn't a plane. The sound of it, the frequency, the pitch was a bit higher pitch as well. It was very unusual. Now, I should have got out of bed to look through the window, and maybe I would have seen a UFO, but I was too lazy. I was too comfortable in bed. I was too warm. I didn't want to move. My mum claimed that she had seen UFO when she was younger. She said it was an orb-looking light thing, and it went really fast. Hmm. I mean, I don't do as much coverage on UFOs and aliens within the Kenny Veach case, but I don't dismiss it. It can still be out there. I wonder if the orb UFOs are like drones. And if there were drones, if out in the area where Kenny Veach hiked, are the drones there to spy, to observe? Was Kenny Veach stalked when he went out there that final time? Jeff Clark shared his thoughts previously, as in, well, based on what may have happened and Kenny just vanishing and likely not turning back, where else could you go? There's always that possibility that it could even be a lie about the scent ending at the mine shaft, but if it truly ended there, where else can Kenny go? If he's not in the mine shaft, where else can he possibly go? Vanishing into thin air? Did Kenny put the coins and phone down, anticipating what was going to happen next? I wonder. Lilo, big change. He got stalked. Video I seen. He got stalked. You referring to Sean Horlacher? Stalked on the way back to his car. Yeah, so Leela, in terms of the supposed edited one that's still on Sean's channel, that one, the 2019 hike. What is interesting, Travis, is I'm sure when I watched the 2019 hike of Sean, which I watched in probably 2020, yeah, so a year on, but I was watching him back in 2020, the 2019 hike video, and he was singing. He showed his crystal and his gun at the start of his video. And then fast forward on, I see that comment by Kenny saying, I'm going to release the unedited version. And I was like, wait, what? And then with you, Travis, mentioning about Kenny singing in the unedited one, I guess originally saw the unedited video back in 2020. I just never knew that he edited it afterwards, and why would he need to edit it then? That's a bit weird. And if he edited it, how exactly? Because the YouTube studio mode is very limited to how you can edit stuff. Did he take it down, privatize it, then re-upload it? I can't remember the original date of when he uploaded it originally. But it was in 2019. I'd have to look back, maybe. Way too hot during the day. Well, the thing is, Leela, when it came to Artari, once living in Las Vegas, where they lived, the mountain lions, because of either lack of food or lack of water, had actually left the mountains to come to her neighborhood. And they were just walking around, which is kind of crazy. I'm just going to sit down for a second, rest the back. See the head. Oh, I've just sat on the pen. Put that there. How are we doing for time? Not too bad, not too bad. So just to mention it once again, video announcements in the coming days. We'll be covering Tickaboo Peak map analysis. We'll be covering archived footage as well. Map analysis of the ridge area. Spread awareness on locations. I think the thing is with UFOs, as in material, it's more so based on supposed true stories and other stories of other people, and not fully directly to Kenny Veach. The only closest one being Ewu crew, because they were searching for Kenny and came across a UFO. I don't think any hikers that we know of have actually captured UFOs on camera when being out there. Travis, Sean edited out all the light-hearted parts. I think he was getting trolled in the comments for the crystals and the singing. Yeah, actually, I remember that now. It was in the comment section. But if Sean edited that, you said it was about 50 minutes, or Sean said it was about 50 minutes worth of footage that was missing. What's he doing for those 50 minutes? Is he singing for 50 minutes? He might have got a guitar and started busking in the desert then. I don't think it was that long, 45 minutes. That's quite a lot of time missed out. Okay. He also edited out every time he said, "Are you the government?" to the moths. Oh, wow. That's interesting. Now, is it rude to say, was Sean paranoid in terms of editing out such things? That you add one thing with another, that it snowballs into something much worse than what it may actually be? I wonder. I probably should. Can that be lowered? Floating head on the screen. Interesting. When he was in the bathroom, was he on a loo break as well? Yeah, so Travis, in terms of the clip of him in the bathroom, was that in the same footage as his hike one? Because I do remember when he talked about it when he was in the bathroom. I believe he was sat down on the toilet, and he mentioned about his shin, that there was like some kind of microchip within his shin, and it wasn't healing up. Slytherin, a guy who's into crystals, is a rare and nice combination. I love it. Ooh. But the real question is, does Robin like crystals or not? Got some competition there, Slytherin. Those are Trevor's. Yeah, it's at the very end of the video. Because I watched it way back then. I've not really watched it since. But strange. It's just kind of strange in a way. Did Sean edit those bits out because he felt that his YouTube channel was being silenced or something? The thing is, his TikTok account was shut down 2019 onwards because he did a post on QAnon, Anonymous, whatever you call it. And he got over 100,000 views and then he was shut down. Sean Hall-Acker appeared in the news as well. There was that time. Was Sean Hall-Acker shut down for his Kenny Veach investigation, or was that just because it crossed over his political interactions with stuff, and it's the political stuff which crossed over onto his channel, and it unfortunately impacted the Kenny Veach material? See, when it comes to true crime and true crime cases, people end up at times putting in a lot of work and effort, and then they undo it all by covering something or saying something controversial, and then it ruins everything else. Not that you should be silent, but should also be considerate of all the work that you've done and the research that can be used with it when people look at it and consume it. It's like when I do true crime coverage in the past, I've got to be careful how I do it, because if I mess it up, it could be a snowball effect and all the other videos could be impacted, and then the people that watch would miss out on it. His fourth hike. So in terms of 4 hikes out there, Travis, from my memory, one was done in 2015, another one was done in 2016 and 2019. 15. So when were the other 2 done then? Or was it 2 done in 2015, 1 in 2016, and then 1 in 2019? I don't remember the 4th one, or the 3rd one, whichever one. Jimmy Chris Jenkins solo. Jimmy. Right, so the Jimmy one, yeah. The Jenkins one, that was 2016, and then the solo was 2019. But Chris, was the one with Chris in 2015? I'm not too sure how Sean learned about the Kenny Veach case. How many people got lost over there? Well, in terms of the area where Kenny Veach was, not really too sure. There's claims like Eric the Hiker, claims of another missing person out there. Unsure of exact dates. It's the hike he re-recorded on his camcorder. Yeah, it's unfortunate because the re-recording it was quite grainy and dark. That's why it's good of SB with the quality that he's done since, and even Jeff Clark, and just moving the camera around slowly so we get to pick up on stuff and see things, and even Travis with the quality there with the mine shaft. Mountain lions. Yeah, it should be fine, Harry. But it's interesting though how besides hearing the weird creepy footsteps, the phantom footsteps, the paranormal whispers, at least on camera, no hikers have caught UFOs. I mean, most that go out there are during the daytime, granted, but Jay Chuck stayed there overnight without a tent, slept on the ground, didn't report any UFOs. Jay Silverheels was out there in the dark once, no report of UFOs. SB Vegas was out there during the night as well, like a stealth one. No UFOs from what I can remember. Yeah, sounds good, Travis. What I'll do actually tomorrow, so then you're not waiting about Travis, I'll do that introduction as in Sean Horlacher, because I believe I do have the screenshot of Sean promising what he was going to do, which he never did, but you've managed to fulfill it. So I'll give that introduction tomorrow. I guess I can provide a link to your channel so people can access it quicker. But I'll try and do that in the morning time, and then it gives me time in the afternoon to work on maybe another video, maybe the Tickaboo Peak one, just see how it goes. I need to do more short clips. The good thing is, managed to reach a new milestone. Short clip managed to reach the 500K mark, which is good. Him running for sheriff is crazy. Yeah, because good person, I guess, but I don't know, when certain people go into certain positions of power, do they change? Is there a reason for it? Not that it's always the case, but like when some people are, got the backs against the wall, they're being screwed over, they're being silenced, and then they may associate or join something which may be a part of silencing or a part of some kind of structure or authority. You become a part of it. Is it to protect yourself? Is it to distance yourself from your original life? What's going on? Does a person of a certain authority or power who turns to that then turns on other people? I don't know. I'm trying to think of the worst case scenarios if anything did go wrong. Do a lot of things and never did them. I don't know what happened with Sean and his family, because supposedly, like, they were living together, and then through some of Sean's later videos or live streams, it looked like it was just him. So I don't know what happened there. But I would argue and say Sean's attitude did change drastically with time. And then in the latter stage of live streams, with some of his followers, let's put it that way, the typical, one-sided followers on Sean's channel making the odd little reference to me, and then obviously Sean left it off. But there's a little bit of, I guess, cockiness going on. I mean, it's normal human behavior. A community defends their own and goes against another. I get that. But when people have obtuse mindsets, it does no good. James Wilson, welcome. Good your hair. Sliverin, it's interesting that each of us has a favorite hiker. Yeah, I saw that Travis community post, and he did one video at least with some guy. Don't know who that guy was. I guess it was a friend. They were on a couch talking. I'm going to do a live stream every Friday night, and it hasn't been live since. He did one video. Team Robin. Huh. If I had to pick a favorite hiker, or more so at one point a go-to hiker, at the time, I would say Scott Natal, because Scott Natal was a lot more hands-on whilst the quality wasn't as good, he was more hands-on. The only downside was lack of clarity at times. But back then he did respond and say where locations were at least. So he did communicate. Went to certain places, different areas, different variety, and went full at it. And then interestingly, in 2022, when I moved on to the Dylan Rounds case, by some chance, Scott Natal ended up moving to the Dylan Rounds case as well. Because Scott Natal in 2022 was working in Utah, so he's closer to the area for the Dylan Rounds case. And Scott Natal has a brother called Les Natal, and Les Natal is friends with a person called Alan from Mountain Labs Fortress or something. And Alan is the one that works with Heavy D, Diesel Brothers on YouTube. Some interesting connections there. And Heavy D and the crew, along with, I guess at one point, Scott Natal or Les Natal had gone out there searching the mine shafts. Oh, we got Driven X Adventures, welcome. I don't know if you're able to answer it, Driven, but you know when you were at the so-called covered up M cave, that particular one, and you were using the snake camera, how long would you say you spent near to the covered M cave? And with being close to it, how long would you say you spent around it investigating and whatnot? Because I'm just thinking, when Sean Horlacker got ill, got sick, okay, it could be for different reasons, but is it because of how close you to the cave, because of how long you spend at the cave? I don't know. Oh, City are winning 2-0 now. Cherky scored, which would have wanted Haaland. I'm just thinking now, is Bruno Fernandes going to get more points? But then do I trust Manchester United against Ipswich? There was an ominous humming over an hour. Wow. Now that's interesting, Driven, because I can look back at the live chat another day and get the screenshot of it because it's important. Wait, is this a penalty or a free kick? Oh shit, it's just a free kick. Oh, it's for the opposition. No mind. We've got Rusty, welcome. It seems like all the people who had YouTube channels that went out to Area 51 are no longer around. Well, to some extent, that seems to be correct, Rusty. Oh shit, Crystal Palace just scored. Wow. Damn it, I wasn't looking that time. I was looking at the chat. Camped there for 2 days. Yeah, so the reason why I say that's interesting, Driven, is because since you were there over an hour near to that cave, if there was any argument to say radiation, toxic chemicals being emitted from the cracks or the gaps of the cave, well, clearly it didn't affect you. So for what Sean experienced, that may have just been more of a coincidence. Well, we got Jay Silverheels now. Welcome. Remember that Scott Natal still is looking for the M cave. Yeah, I saw a few videos here and there. I think what's interesting, Jay, is Scott Natal was near to Robbins Canyon, I believe, the rock anomaly. And when panning around, he said, I can hear voices. And then in the corner on a mountain, there was a weird looking figure. Very creepy. Shame more people haven't seen that video yet. One thing I'm going to try and test is the short clips. Do I need to change the aspect ratio? Because with the Robin ones, the aspect ratio of them, you need to keep them zoomed out so people get to see the whole screen. But then I think people don't like it when it's zoomed out, as in strangers. So I guess if I zoom in, you cut most of the footage off. But I'll just see if that works on the sideline. Welcome to anyone else watching this live. If you just miss a little bit, you can always rewind to the beginning to hear about the latest announcements and what to expect next. Consider hitting the thumbs up, the like button to help spread awareness on this case and it's live. And just as a new little feature, I don't know if you can see it not on screen. I don't know where it would actually be, to be honest. I'd have to look on maybe another channel and see. There's like a new gift feature similar to TikTok live streams. I don't know what variety there is, but we've seen some coins, which is a nice little feature. I wish they would remain longer on the screen. Where are they gone? What does that button do? Well, as in that drawing, Sonny, I saw it. Yeah, in terms of people that have disappeared or gone quiet after looking for Area 51, that would be Adventures with Christian. It would be Mac Adventures, just to name some. Oh my god, they just scored again. What the hell? Ooh. Ooh, I might have to get him in. I don't know if he's going to start often. Shit. How many people own Turkey? Where's Haaland? Come on, do something. I don't know who would have got the assist, huh? Wait, are they congratulating Haaland? Don't tell me Haaland got the assist. Please tell me. Yeah, Explore with us sold or is their channel on? Oh no, it wasn't assist. Damn. But interestingly, Rusty, I don't know if you've seen it, but Ewu crew, Bob, Emma, the family have ever since set up their channel again. And they've done some videos out there as well. So they're still around. What channel is the football on? I'm not too sure. I'm watching it like elsewhere. As many times I've been up there, nothing unusual has happened, and I've many videos of the areas that haven't been shown, which I'll be posting. It's good to know. Christian disappeared. Yeah, Christian disappeared a while ago now. The last time Christian was about was during the lockdown, the virus. He was with his son going around Las Vegas, walking about. Mo did a video afterwards on ironwork, but completely went quiet. He supposedly went to Canada, and that's been it since, which is interesting. Hmm. Christian was having disagreements with Area 51 rider. Yeah, I remember one particular video, Rusty, where Christian and his son were in the desert at some like either abandoned facility, warehouse, and when going in one of the open rooms on the wall, there was spray painting, and it was to do with Area 51. I don't know if it was a threat or just an insult, but it obviously caused tension. Yeah, I need Haaland to get one more goal. Definitely need one more. Probably enough time for that to happen. So at this moment in time, I'd say, do I think aliens are the be all and end all, as in Kenny's disappearance? In regard to how he just faded away at the mine shaft, something may have happened. The alternative Robin account, 2022 onwards, a few months ago, had claimed that Kenny was taken on board, which could be interpreted as a UFO, some kind of craft. But the mine shaft, why the mine shaft though at that point? Why not before? Why not after? Was the UFO waiting for Kenny, or did it appear out of nowhere once Kenny got to the mine shaft? Did Kenny Veach have any intention of recording anything? Did he have any intent on getting to the mine shaft to set his video camera, whatever, up to do a recording, but didn't have any time, and an aircraft appeared, caught him off guard, and somehow abducted him? But where would he be taken to then? It's been mentioned that you've got the tall white alien greys, mountaintop side of mountains where UFOs can be stored, bases underground. Is that where Kenny was taken? But what would they do with Kenny? What use would he be? Because, not to sound rude, Kenny Veach couldn't even name locations correctly, you know? Sometimes he was a bit all over the place. And supposedly he couldn't even locate the true location of the M cave in his recorded footage. So, in a way, of what use is he to military or aliens? Maybe the mine shaft is a portal. You never know. It's a shame, though, that the mine shaft's been filled in ever since. Kenny may have travelled to the future. I wonder any cross references to Stranger Things, the interdimensional time travel. Jam, maybe the government intercepted him. He was drawing attention to the cave. Yeah, I think what probably didn't help is Kenny Veach put it on the map when he said on son of an area technician worker, 51, he came across the cave. So that probably drew attention because the video was quite popular as well. David Lynch did a movie on Kenny. Slytherin, who's your favourite hiker? Yeah, I'll do a poll. Well, I think I know which player I'll be getting in my FPL team. I'll probably transfer out Mbumo or Bruno Fernandes for Cherky. I mean, the first transfer that I made was the Brentford player, was he called? Mamadou Sangare. I brought him in. I've got to do the accent for his name all the time. Oh, shit. I don't know if I'll be able to fit them all on, okay? Wow. I can only have 4 options. So I'm just wondering, should I do the more prominent ones that have been out there more times hiking? Because it's not like we have to have an option for Robin, because Slytherin will be voting that anyway, so we know. Sean, SB, Scott, Jeff Clark, I guess. Because it's like a pack of them. We'll Jay Silverheels, Jay Chuck. They're all J's, so we can do that, can't we? Oh God, I thought Jay Cook, Jay Chuck. Whoops. Oh fuck me. Oh my God. Right. That'll do. The poll is now open. There's other hikers as well, but I can only fit 4 options on. So let me know in the chat. I just want Says you forgot Ty Corbin. Oh yeah, the one that looks like Thanos with that giant chin. Looked like he was dragged out of a hedge backwards and started whining about me. No, 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 we don't do with low standard humans. No, 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 no. James, you missed Driven. Whoops. Yeah, I can't fit all the names on YouTube. Only has a poll of 4 votes, and I don't want to team people up because it doesn't complement each individual person. I'd have to do like a follow-up poll or something. But if you want to share your favorite hiker, you can leave it in the comment section down below. If your option isn't in the vote, you can always type it. EJ, yeah, that is true. My brother is a scientist. He got asked to go work on starships in France. He always talks about time travel. Wow. So let me know in the chat, do you believe that UFOs are directly responsible for Kenny's disappearance or partially responsible or not at all? Let me know. My opinions, what do I say? Because Kenny's scent supposedly ended at the mine shaft and there's no other trace of him, if he had vanished into thin air, the presence of a UFO doesn't always have to mean aliens, just an unidentified flying aircraft. If it was present, maybe it did get him. But for it to land and near the mine shaft, would it be practical? A UFO supposedly may not need to land if it can just suck someone up. No dehydration fall. Just trying to find the location of where one would fall. Oh, we got Johnny Catbird. Shout out to Johnny. Regardless of my mixed reaction, Sean is still my second favourite. Not at all. Shame Jeff Clark's not here to defend the UFOs. As for the paranormal, I believe that there is paranormal out there, but do I think it's directly responsible for Kenny's disappearance? No. But if something bad happened to Kenny, could the location be haunted by Kenny's presence? You know, have you heard footsteps out there, phantom footsteps? Like Sean did, Scott Natal did. Is it Kenny haunting, roaming the area as a distant lone hiker without seeking closure? Okay, they do the spirit box sessions, the card readers, but I don't think anyone's done a paranormal session near the mine shaft or over there. Surprised no one has, you know. Making you vibrate. I can make people vibrate just with my voice, my mouth. Anyway, James, what do you think happened? So at one point in the past, I thought, well, maybe Kenny got to the mine shaft and turned back round, came the way, backtracked. Backtracking where exactly? To be picked up by someone else to then disappear, but leave items out there as like proof to say, hey, I'm out here when I'm actually elsewhere, misdirection. If there's any possibility that the search team had lied about what really happened to Kenny Sen, if it went on further, it may support the claim by Kenny to his nephew in a text before going out there, Hunter, referring to, if I don't find a cave, I'll hike north 45 miles. And close enough to 45 miles, there is Tickaboo Peak, and that's been closed off since, so it's unusual. You know what's interesting, James, is if you see the video that I did a few days ago, as in Wagon Canyon, the possible M cave area, with credit to Leela. Some hikers have said they've not been there, still on the list, which is promising in a way, I guess. Vibrating machines that you set up in Call of Duty Black Ops 2. I've got a vibrating machine. It's black, but it's not from Black Ops 2. That's out of context. It's for massaging the muscle. It sounds like a drill. You're welcome, James. So in terms of the UFO talk and discussions, I'd say I think I've reached a point of satisfaction. Mention what needs to be said, just a little discussion, keep it open, keep it a little bit casual. I appreciate everyone that has watched, joined along the way, and carried on watching and in the background as well. As like what I said, there's going to be a second part to this live, which is separate to the Kenny Veach case. Just want to make that clear. I can explain more about that in a minute. So what I'm going to do now, because me personally, I've reached the end of discussions with this Kenny Veach live stream. I'm going to do a countdown from 20. And whilst I'm counting down, if you've got any final thoughts or questions, you can always leave it in the live chat. And once I count down to 0, I'm going to move on temporary to a completely different topic and catch up there, because the last live, I think it was, what I did, or pre-recorded video, I asked, do some people in the background watching want a follow-up to what we talked about yesterday or whenever it was? And there was a yes reaction to it. So I thought, right, I'll carry that on, and we can do like a little debriefing of it, and then see. So just want to make that clear so people know what's up. Some weird growling outside them. So we can give like a disclaimer once I've got to the very end, and then yeah. So I'll do my countdown now. Biggest problem I had with Sean was him bashing the reptilians in his videos. What, bashing verbally or physically? Or what, like whack-a-mole with decays? Anyway, I'm going to begin the countdown now. 20, 19, 18, 17, 16, 15, 14, 13, 12, 11, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and there we go. So appreciate those that have watched, and in the background, anticipate more videos to come in the coming days, a variety of them. Some map analysis, some archives. I can try and get some short clips out at some point as well. So the variety of things to cover and to look at. So that's all good. See where it goes, what conversation it leads to. And if you haven't already, feel free to share or hit the thumbs up on this live before you go, or if you need to go and do anything. And yeah, I'll see you next time. With that being said, we'll try and move on to the second part now for a little bit or so. See if anyone is ready, if it's the right time, and if not, well, we can leave it there altogether. So, more specifically, if there's anyone still there watching in the background, let me know if you're interested, ready for the psychology part focus. Okay. I believe I explained what it was about in regard to last night, a follow-up, elaborating on it, the dynamics, the environments that a person could be in, the combination of feeling trapped, the effects, but then also how do you deal with possible secondary abuse? So I have split it down, and what I'm going to do this time round, because it might be a bit easier, I'll show you the notes. Got to look down too much now. I hope it didn't show a double chin. Is it going to fit on? Oh, it shows it completely. This is just like little bullet points, that's all. So In terms of what needs to be covered, do like a little vote or something, I guess. I split it into 2 parts. Okay. So for those watching in the background, what would you be more interested in hearing about? There's 2 areas, so I'm just gonna say them out first, and then if you wanna vote with one emoji or the other, then feel free to do so, and we'll explain what the emojis are in just a second. Let's wait for the train to pass by 'cause it's very noisy. Give it a moment. Okay, well, there we go. So for those watching in the background, if you would want me to cover the origins of secondary abuse, as well as role play scenarios and basically putting myself into the shoes of someone to try and describe what it might be like to make someone in the background feel more seen and understood? Or are you more focused on dealing with it, on how to deal with secondary abuse? So, with those 2 areas, as in voting, let me just think for a second. If you would prefer me to cover the origins of secondary abuse with role play as well, if you want to hit the heart, or if you want me to cover dealing with it, how to deal with it, press the 100 emoji. Which one would you prefer more? So, okay, so you want both of them to be done. Yeah, I'll try and cover both. Obviously, you've got limited time, but I'll try and add on. It's understandable. As I say, I always do a disclaimer, transition from one subject to another. Always cover the Kenny Veach stuff first, all that, and then move on later. So, where did the origins actually come from then? I'm going to shut the window while I talk for this. Already highlighted the types of abuse. The types of abuse can match what may have been done in the past with a previous partner. Different levels of control, insults, wearing a person down. If it happens in such a situation where a survivor is already dealing with a trauma response, shutting the world out, trying to recover, but never quite getting to full recovery because they're always shut down by the presence of another person about, demonstrating that secondary abuse. It doesn't just have to happen here or there or during a downfall period, it can happen all the time, slowly chipping away at the survivor. Why do they do what they do exactly? Well, it never justifies what they do, but there can be a reason as to why they act in certain ways. On a very small scale, on the sideline, separate, as an example, sometimes people can become a narcissist to compensate for other areas that they may lack or how they've been treated. Sometimes a narcissist can become that because they weren't shown enough attention or love at a younger age. Not always the same, but can happen at times. But we're talking about a controlling or an insulting or a person that holds a candle to the past, trapping that survivor from being able to move on, such as with relationships and partners. feeling lack of privacy, feeling suffocated in a way, always judged. Why would a family member, for example, be like that? Well, first of all, again, it's just as important. Whilst all this can be bad, in terms of the videos that I've already done in the past, like with a relationship trauma behind closed doors, everything that happens and goes on there, the effects it has and who it's by, which causes the most profound hurt and pain, not always the actions, but who it's by, causes the trust broken, the betrayal, the shock, the hurt, the knockback, the worry, all of that. If you can't trust the very person you're very closest to, how can you trust anyone else? It causes a spiral with time, a ladder effect, but for the wrong reasons. You see someone, you're with someone at the very top. Can it get any better than that? You think everything below is not as good. If the thing at the very top lets you down, hurts you, surely everything else below it will. That's how it can come across in the mind. So who it's caused by can cause the most pain and hurt. But then again, present time. Ah, yes. Yes, did it count? Did it count? Yes, there we go. Finally got another goal. And it is quite unprofessional of me. But yes, Haaland got another goal. Boom. I needed that. 4-1. Ooh. You probably get 2 bonus points, maybe. Oh, he whacked it into the corner. That was a satisfying goal. And that, is it what's he called? Buadi? 95 million has come on as well. Let me just watch this quick highlight replay. Foden, I think, got the assist. Oh, power shot. Thank God I had Haaland as captain. Now I don't have to worry about Bruno Fernandes as much. That's definitely helped a lot. Anyway, for those watching in the background, what you may have gone through way back in the past, like relationship trauma, may be happening all over again right now, but not so much a relationship, but like a connection with a family member. So still, who it's caused by still has that profound impact on you. And maybe a greater impact when you're already vulnerable and you're trying to recover. Every step you try and make forwards, they are there to drag you back. You may always tell yourself you're stuck in the past, you're trying to move forwards, you're trying to shake it from your head. What if it's not all your fault? It's because of someone else nearby that's constantly feeding stuff into your ear, into your head, almost holding you back in that sense. So, oh my God, it's so noisy outside. It's like a thumping sound. So, with the past, survived. Dealing with this current situation, how does one survive? It's not always going to be that simple as, well, learn from everything that's happened in the past to change it now. It doesn't just work like that. It can be complex and even more complex when already dealing with a compiling amount of things going on. So we've mentioned the examples from the last video that was being touched upon. The effects that you may be feeling can be caused by their actions. The ways you can avoid it or deal with it, there are ways with that. But let's just return back to the origins to try and understand why would they even do it in the first place. Are they targeting you on a personal level? Is it really a personal level with you? If they have an emotional biasness to someone else in the past, which just happens to correlate or connect with you, that could be driven by it, their attitude. Depends how long it's lasted. Let me give you an example. If that toxic family member or person you know of, you associate with, stuck with, whatever it may be, if they've recently or previously gone through a divorce, a breakup, such as a relationship thing, they may have a bitter taste in their mouth, whether they were responsible for that breakup, they messed up that relationship, or it was caused by the other person. They may be hurting inside, maybe. What they're doing now is a form of displacement, channeling their negative, their darkness, their frustrations onto you. They're treating you as a punching bag for their failures or for their shortcomings. If they knew of someone in the past that you were with, and then things broke down, parted ways for whatever reason that may be, retroactive biasness of their own life can be channeled towards your life, where they make your life a part of their life and say what should have been done differently, what could have been done. Oh, you've messed this up, you messed that up. It's a shame they're not here anymore. And almost like blaming you for it when it had nothing to do with you. For every time they make a dig, an insult, a complaint, it might be more self projection. Everything that they tell you and have a go at you, they might be reflecting on themselves, but they don't make it clear. Not everyone is like that, but I'm just giving you like an example, a backstory. What would the origins be of a person holding a candle to the past, someone that they knew of at the time? To be honest, when it comes to survivor's guilt, if there's anyone watching in the background who experiences survivor's guilt, you have to ask yourself, do you have full-on survivor's guilt, or is there a possibility that that toxic person in the background has an alternative, more abstract form of survivor's guilt? Not as in what they think of themselves, but how they portray it towards you. 90s kid. Did I miss the Kenny stuff again? Yeah. Spent the last hour and 20 minutes, I think, on Kenny, but you can always rewind back to the beginning. At the end of the day, that other toxic person around you, and you feel trapped by them. In a normal situation, they would support you in moving forwards, healing, moving on, finding other people. That would be the normal situation. If you find yourself where they're not supporting you or encouraging you, the opposite, well, then it is personal and they do have problems. They do have their own issues psychologically. As it may not be clear, it's as if maybe things didn't work out for them, so they're jealous of what you may have or could have. There could be that as well, jealousy. If they can't be happy, they don't want you to be happy. Maybe that's the case with a past relationship. Maybe if a past bad ex-partner had removed themselves from this world, and they put the blame on yourself. If they felt like they were losing you, they felt like, well, if I can't have you, I'm going to do this to myself so then you can't have anyone because this psychological impact will keep you trapped forever. Would a loving person do all that to ensure that you're trapped for life? It's about understanding the intent behind people's actions, because if you feel survivor's guilt, you feel guilty, or you feel like you've let someone down, you remind yourself of how cancerous humans can be. No matter how close you were with them at some point, humans can be cancerous, disease-ridden, and can have things set up in place. If they can't have you, then no one else can. Now, not to do with abuse, but in terms of controlling behavior, we can actually use a real-time example on the spot, because I've got an example myself when it came to YouTube sometime in the past, previously, when I was in the presence of another person with respect to their privacy, good individual. You had another viewer called Cleo, and they got jealous. They got in the way. They were insulting the other person, being quite nasty, little digs, covert, sly behavior. And their attitude was, well, if I can't have you, I'm going to make sure no one else can. So I'm going to make the situation awkward, uncomfortable, and try and push other people away. So there can be sabotage that goes on. Sabotage because a person doesn't get what they want, doesn't have something in their life, so they try and derail someone else. There's no one fixed example or area, so I can't give one universal example. And what I will do, just on the sideline, I will elaborate more in just a second. I've got you in the background, but what I just want to give like a bit of a response to here, just because, like as an opinion, Leela, obviously recent videos have been focused on reconnecting or reaching out, and obviously with what you said and learning about that, specifically based on where you're currently at with the dogs that you have, and you're happy with the dogs. You got some friends in the background. You got another friend from Texas or the US, possibly to travel with. To some extent, it seems like you've got certain agencies of control and identity back in place in life. So, if you're somewhat happy or somewhat stable as you are, the best thing that you could possibly do, just as an opinion only, is to stick with that, make the most of, and any things of reaching out or reconnecting. Is there really a need? Is it for the sake of closure, or is it just for the thing of hoping things have changed? Because in some circumstances, people don't change. If things are okay as they are, does something need to be fixed if it's not exactly broken? Something to consider. But as for other people watching in the background, there's people watching in the background, their situations may be a lot more different, meaning different outcomes. I would word it as, if you feel trapped and if you know of someone or some people you can reach out to, despite a deep freeze, a long silence, it's worth reaching out, providing who you're reaching out to, they made you feel safe, they made you feel understood back then, and they were a good person, truly. That shouldn't change despite the time. It's not always about reaching out and returning back to where things left off. That might require too much pressure, too much emotional capacity, which you may not have. Doesn't have to return to that. It's just simply reaching out. Not much has to change, but it adds as a bit of a distraction, or it could do. Share thoughts, next decisions, next plans. Look at it this way. If there was a fear of reaching out also because of fear of privacy, look at it this way. If you're here right now watching public or watching in the background, if you're watching right now and you've watched my previous videos and for some time and you've been able to watch it successfully without any interruptions, without being caught out, without being too seen, without any consequences whatsoever, even if you feel trapped, even if you feel paralyzed, you've managed this, which is a good thing. You found a bubble which hasn't been contaminated or desecrated, something to hold on to and remember. For when it comes to decision making of, oh, if I reach out, will that person in the background know and find out? If I reach out and start talking or chatting with someone, and if it improves my mood and I start smiling or laughing in the room now, are they going to catch on and question and say, what are you laughing at? Who are you talking to? And then there's too many questions and you're interrogated. What you choose to engage with can remain consistent with where you reach out and who to. For example, wherever you are or the environment that you're in, if you're able to successfully watch videos like this and many more in the background, if successful, the same environment and format can be applied to if you ever reach out to someone you know of. Not always possible. People aren't always available. But I'm just giving the examples of what I can talk about based on the knowledge that I know of. That's all I can do. I can't fill every area. As for tiny little steps, the only and the one thing you can do short term, mid-term, Leela, is at some point when there's a time or place, write down on paper every tiny micro adjustment, every tiny micro decision, and every tiny micro change, whatever that may be. Something very simple and basic or more, to write down, and then to write next to it how you associate with it. By making that little change, by doing it in a little different order, by testing or experimenting something, it could be anything. let's just give some more grounded changes, whether that be changing the music playlist or the type of music you listen to, or it be changing your hairstyle or hair color, or changing certain visual areas or physical stuff. Any tiny little change to write down on paper, and then beside it, write down how you associate with it and how it made you feel. Did it result in a negative feeling when that little change was made, or was it okay? When that little change was done, or something was tested or brand new, did it yield a positive emotion, a negative emotion, or a neutral one? If it did yield a positive emotion or neutral, then that's proof and facts, proof that these little adjustments aren't always going to end badly. In that area, it's about retrusting the mind that not everything is going to be end of the world, even if people in the past have made it seem that way. Now, any other areas? Yeah, that's okay, Harry. Take care. Just glad about that football. 2 goals. Whew. Made everything so much better. How many points would that be for Haaland? It's probably only going to be 11. I think it's only going to be 11 points, but you know what? It's good enough. I know Haaland's the most captained, Bruno's second, but yeah. So for those watching in the background, hopefully it's making sense up to now. Let me know, anyone watching in the background, if you want me to elaborate more on the origins, or a heart if you'd like me to move on to the coping, the dealing of figuring out what to do when trapped. Okay, elaborate a bit more. I will do that in just a second. Let me just see what the time is. Time's gone slow tonight, but that's not exactly a bad thing. Well, that's ideal, Slytherin. What Slytherin says is a good example of certain types of support, but it's also a good example of what people in the background may still have, but may feel distant from because of everything that's happened. I'm trying to cover examples of more severe situations. If you covered the worst case scenarios with a solution, then you can work backwards towards other stuff and think it's not as bad as it may look. Like sometimes you do something really difficult, then it means anything after that or before that won't be as hard in difficulty. So, what would be an example? Let me just move that because it's a bit distracting now. Keep the time there. Okay. So for those watching in the background, let me know with a heart if you want more elaboration on the origins of secondary abuse and who it's caused by. If not, use a 100 emoji if you want to learn more about the dynamics of trying to connect and reestablish people in your life whilst balancing it out with the toxicity. Okay. So, what I'd say first of all, if you genuinely believe and feel deep within, no matter how impossible it is, in what's that emoji? Oh my goodness. For those in the background, if you genuinely feel that you want to reconnect and want to reach out, you just don't know how to, it's still a positive sign. It shows you know what you want, and knowing what you want can be the hardest part because when you're going through a trauma response, a deep freeze, a dissociative episode, you tend to feel numb, cut off, and you might feel dead inside. So, whether you feel like that or not, for you to admit anonymously, you know what you want, it shows the darkness, the trauma hasn't taken everything from you. But it also shows that the secondary abuse and those people in the background haven't completely stripped your identity. So it's still there within you, which is good. But as good as that is, what happens next? What can be done next? Reaching out obviously requires having to communicate with someone, but preferably someone who's a good influence in your life. But understandably, communicating with a toxic person, there's the weight of dread and worry and uncertainty. When dealing or reconnecting with a good person in one's life, it carries the weight of, they're a good person, what have I done to them because of their silence? If there has been a silence for some time, how do I repay that back? How do I make it up to them? Are they going to be annoyed? Have I made another enemy in which they'll turn their back on me? So then I've got absolutely nothing. That is the fear. The stakes may be higher because you're dealing with a better person, and you would associate a better person would be with better treatment. And you may feel you've treated someone badly. So it feels awkward in reaching out. You want them, you want to connect with them, but partially you may feel, I don't know if I deserve them. I don't know if I can face them after what's happened. But again, you have to remind yourself, what's happened to cause this silence and distance is a trauma response, the trauma talking, the trauma acting. Was it your heart that made the decision to shut everyone out? Or was it the brain to shut everyone out? Was it kind of like an involuntary biological defense mechanism? Or was it, I really want to shut people out and I really want to avoid people and I really want to sabotage a friendship or a relationship? If it's not the heart and it's more the trauma, the mind, the demons, well, then it's not all your fault. Unexpected things have happened. If the person you know of is a good individual, then technically they should understand and know and be somewhat patient. Some life situations may have changed, but in terms of the level of basic respect, that shouldn't have changed at all. Again, it does also come down to trusting your own heart in decision making, as in who you know. Videos I've already done about, as in how to trust the heart, how to make decisions, how to find the right timing. That's all in place. That's all on my channel already, so you can check that out. I know I don't represent everyone, but anyone specific or in particular watching in the background, let me know with an emoji if you want to hear a role play scenario based on my attitude. If I was in a situation, if I knew of someone that wanted to reach out, what would I say? What would I think? Let me know if that's something, because sometimes you got to hear it from the other side as well. As for emoji, I guess just like for the role play bit, if it's needed, anyone in the background, I guess the heart one, the heart emoji, to symbolize if you want to hear the role play, the point of view, my attitude, my thoughts. Okay. So when I do this role play, it's like put myself in a position. Doesn't represent everyone, okay? And it's not like something direct, like James Wilson, please reach out to me. I want you back. It's not like that, okay? But it's just more of a demonstration of what the other side, other people could be thinking, because it's the uncertainty that causes the hesitancy, the reluctantness in doing something or reaching out. The people in the background, people, anyone, I around others, where it's the unknown of what a toxic person could be like, or a past relationship, what they're going to be like the next day, the next morning, the next hour, at night when they come back from work. Are they going to be different? Are they going to be the same? All that causes a lot of stress. Well, it's the same with reaching out right now. You already feel trapped. You may already be paralyzed. You may not be able to work. You may not be able to function the same way. And you around knobheads and tossers, but there are lights out there, but you don't know how to reach them or find a way through. Hesitancy in reconnecting because of the fear of what will they say, what will they do. Now, the thoughts, the opinions of what I'm going to say now are absolutely natural in the sense of what I say now is what I mean. Okay. I'm not messing about. I'm not pissing around. So if I found myself in a position where I was with someone who became distant unknowingly because of a severe episode, deep freeze, along the lines of that, whilst trapped with people around them, within the environment, within the house, for example, and every day was a struggle, low energy, low capacity, body sore, body aching, and as well, health related, maybe breathing issues, struggling there, any illnesses within. What else could it be? Cancer, could be anything really, whilst dealing with PTSD as well. Things come, things return, more trapped than ever. What would I be thinking if I somehow knew that that person was going through all that? What would be my attitude? What would I do? What would I want? What would I think? I would hope and I would want them to reach out as soon as possible, not for the sake of my own benefit, but for the sake of them too, and more so them. If it helps them, if it can ease things, then it just makes sense to do that. If they had reached out, but on very low energy and very low capacity, would I be pissed off? Would I be frustrated? Would I be bored by them? No. Because after that length of time, I would be thinking, well, clearly something has gone wrong, something has bad happened, especially if I have an idea to an extent of what they may be going through or dealing with certain stuff. Sometimes you can use common sense that a long layoff and a period of silence, it's out of the norm. It's not like them. So obviously something bad has happened. So they reached out just with a hi, really basic, really small scale. I'd simply say hi back and match their pace. No pressure, no demands, no expectations. Doesn't even have to return back to how it was in the past. I don't expect that person to return back to normal or have to pretend to be something that they're not at that moment. I get that they've had to pretend and fake it with everyone else, or in that situation, around friends, around work people, clients, whatever, pretending to be perfect when it's not inside. Don't need that, in my opinion. Just be basic, be raw, be dark, be whatever you need to be in that moment. What was the line I said? Be the person you need and have to be around others. Be the person you want to be around me. Simple as. Or in that scenario, I would put it that way. Would I demand or ask many questions? No. I'd simply let them follow or like do the leading when they can. We can tie it on with the dealing part, the coping areas in just a moment, but just let me know. Anyone in particular in the background, if you want me to elaborate more on this role play, or if it makes sense, then there's no need to react. But any elaboration, I can. Okay. So if a person reached out, obviously a person that I know of, if in that situation, do I expect regular communication? No. If a person was to reach out tomorrow, the day after, to just say hi, or if they just said a lot's going on, right that moment, it would click in my head. I'll be thinking, right, I know exactly what's going on. It makes sense. It's understandable. And it wouldn't be like a thing like I'm waiting in that sense, but um, it's like whenever they need to reach out, they can. But there shouldn't need to be any guilt. There shouldn't need to be any shame. I wouldn't dismiss what they may be thinking because what they're possibly thinking, as in what they may have done or what they feel responsible for, is still valid. Because feeling a level of guilt and shame, whilst you shouldn't have to feel that way for everything, it shows that you do care. So sometimes you shouldn't have to dismiss what they may be thinking or telling themselves. But non-verbal reminders and cues can be just being present, being patient without dismissing what they may be thinking. Observations. Obviously, sometimes what's happened is when I've been covering true crime, the odd person's reached out. The odd person's reached out from their points of views and with common sense, because that's what I tend to base it off, common sense, find links. And as well, just in general, anything that I do learn along the way, anyone that I do know along the way, I'm always going to keep it private, even if people really want to know. Not going to happen. When it comes to this type of stuff, locked in. Anything that I know, anyone that I come across, private, simple as. Then again, it's the same with true crime. When people reach out with certain information, keep that quiet, as in who it's from, because some people say they could end up getting killed or dead. Not the same thing, really. But yeah. The reason why I give scenarios is just because I find it's easier to explain through scenarios, in a sense. It protects people's privacy, but it can be a gentle nod or acknowledgement to people or someone. Let me think if there's anything else I need to say. What I would want for someone who I knew reaching out, I would want them to not fear, to not worry, to not feel disappointed, to not feel frustrated, to not have guilt or shame when reaching out. Just reach out naturally and treat it as an escape, treat it as a bubble, an extension of yourself, an environment. But during that period of reaching out, gasping for air, like if you was drowning in water, you were pulled out the water. When people are rescued from the water, do they have to give a life story of everything what's happened? No. What matters in that moment is the survival element and making sure that water's come out and there's no drowning and no secondary drowning. As for everything else, that can come later. So that's how it can be treated. Treat it as gasping for air, treat it as finding air and oxygen first and foremost. All the other doubts, worries, and thoughts can be put on pause, on hold for the moment, or at least to be considered in that sense. I wouldn't dismiss what they may be thinking, but I would hope that they can put some things aside and just focus on what matters most in the moment. Surviving, reaching out, because it's wanted, not because it's forced, not because it feels like a commitment, not because it feels like it's what has to be done or needs to be done. It's what wants to be done. If that was ever the case. Because when it comes to a person's own decision making and considerations of what to do next, maybe you want a second opinion or you just want to share a plan and see what other people think, people that will support or listen to you, but then that can be done now as well. The landscape may have changed, the personality or certain areas may have changed. You may feel like you have changed, but has your heart changed? Because if you find yourself in the background wanting to reach out to someone, you've also found yourself holding on to someone. You found yourself dreaming of someone. You found yourself thinking positive of someone or some people. Well, that's not been taken, so that's not being changed. That's been protected in some way after all this time, so it's something positive to consider. Is there anything else to elaborate on? Anyone watching in the background, as for this role-playing scenario, let me know if you want any more scenarios based on longer term on what happens. Said, welcome to anyone that's watching live. You want to learn about Kenny Veach, UFOs, discussions like that, be sure to rewind back to the beginning, okay? Right, okay. So long term is just as important as short term. I would say if you're going to reach out, reconnect with someone, do it with the intent of short term baby steps. Don't focus on the long term. You focus on the long term, it creates a lot of worry. Will I ever be the same person as I was back then when with them? Will I ever be able to make up for all that lost time? Put all that aside. What matters in the moment is survival. But survival can co-occur with another person. Treat it like a desert island. Not all the weight has to be put on your back. It can be shared evenly within reason. But long term, what could happen in a scenario? I'll use myself as an example. You reach out once a week, once every 2 weeks, a little bit of consistency, a little bit of a routine to rebuild that self-control and that power back. If you're dealing with OCD or not, maybe that can help as well. Building a routine of familiarity whilst in the darkness to find a way out. Checking in once a week, once every 2 weeks, once a month, depending, to say hi. Anything else needs to be shared or talked about, whether it be to do with life, whether it be to do with the past, whether it be to do with the current situation, or if it's just random talk about certain hobbies or interest or, I don't know, breaking the fourth wall, YouTube, true crime, whatever it could be. It's not about pretending everything's fine, but it's just building back some control and consistency and regular or semi-regular check-ins to see how things are going, but also as like a diary. If you can't always write everything down because it takes too much energy or it's hard to process or write it, then if you reach out to someone, you can share it there instead, like a digital diary in a way. And then you've always got the choice to put a password on your phone, lock screen, biometrics, thumbprint. You can delete messages, you can delete your trace afterwards. So you can say everything, you can share everything, you can open up, and then you don't have to fear of, will people in the background read it, see it, or infiltrate? You find yourself here watching these videos, despite how deep it can be at times. If you've watched all my psychology videos in the past and you've been able to watch them without any interference, any intervention, you were safe, your cover wasn't blown then. Well, will it be blown if you reach out to someone in the background? You got to write down on paper every reason why it feels impossible, and then every reason on another paper why you want to reach out. And then you can weigh it up as in what's more ideal. Does the weight slant one way than the other? I'm going to sit down as I continue talking. I need to be a bit higher, just because the back aches just a little bit. I think people or some in the background may worry having to put on a mask as like what you've done in the past. Is there anyone watching in the background that has felt the need to wear a mask in order to cope, but in order to hide, in order to avoid questioning? Have you ever been in that situation before? Okay. For the one that says that, or for anyone, have you worn a mask when at work, when around strangers, when around family members? By wearing a mask, it avoids questions, it avoids conflict, it avoids unnecessary, unwanted attention. However, have you found yourself at some point wearing a mask around the very person you're supposed to be close to? Have you found yourself wearing that performance mask to be a perfect partner in a new relationship? Now, everyone's got their reasons, but an example or examples of why a survivor may wear a mask around a new partner, a person they trust and care about, is because it's the trust and care. With the respect being so high, the closeness being so close, and I guess you could say the attraction as well, is that not wanting to ruin it, this perfect situation, not wanting to dirty the water or contaminate this one area in life which is untouched. If you found yourself where friendships, past connections, best friends have been dragged through what you may call your mess or your dark moments, that may carry a level of weight, of guilt and shame for putting people through that. If that's in your mind, would you say, if you had to be honest with yourself, have you found yourself in positions where a newer partner or kind of recent partner, you hid things from them, as in what was going on in your mind, what was going on during the day? Maybe sometimes it spilled out, it slipped out, and you may have explained a bit, but would you say you hid things from the very person you were with because you didn't want to scare them, push them away, lose them, or ruin that connection you had? Just let that sink in. Okay. So understandably, if you have found yourself in those positions, what that does, it can indirectly isolate yourself, where you want to get your needs across, but you don't want to ruin what you have. But it creates an awkward cycle in which basically you push things under or you hide it, so it builds and builds, and then eventually it gets too much, and then it can lead to a crash. And over time, it can increase, and in some situations, it can be quite long term. But that's not to like pin any blame or anything like that. But it seems like what you have done is self-sacrificed your own needs, your own struggles for the sake of protecting someone. Would you say that was your intent? Back click. Okay. If you were to reflect right now and being honest with yourself, would you do anything different? Like, if you could reflect back, if you could change anything before the silence, would you wish you could have been more honest at the time and more open? Is it that thought of, you know what, this person who I know is actually quite resilient, quite understanding, has a lot of stamina. I probably should have said more back then because they could understand it, but I still wanted to be careful for the sake of their protection and partially mine. But it may feel like now, and this is just being honest, I'm trying to give an internal dialogue, just so you know. The feeling could be now is, oh shit, I'm in a bad way now. I thought doing what I did back then would actually be helpful or work in some way, but I've still ended up worse off now than what I may have been if I was more honest back then. Does it feel like that? Okay. On the sideline as well, because it's not just a relationship, it can be the friendships as well on the sideline. Would you say you've got friends or people around, good people, but because of their protectiveness and how they may act at times, that got too much for you as well? So you had to push them away. Has that happened? Hmm. Okay. So what you may find yourself now is technically you do have someone or some people around you, but it's the worst type. The toxic people, a family member, someone that's laid upon a siege on your sanctuary and have taken over in a sense. You've got someone, but you've got the wrong person. I mean, it can happen. It is normal. All the good people in your life you push away, but not because of self destruction, but more self sacrifice. Would you say that's how it kind of is with yourself? Just on the sideline, Leela, in terms of trust issues, that's very real. What can be done as a counter to heal is to check for consistency, patterns, and trends. How often people show up, how consistent they are in certain ways. Just little touches like that. If a person is kind, nice, and understanding, and they're like that for 6 months, 12 months, 2 years, and it's consistent, and there's not many bumpy patches or red flags, that's something to consider. Patterns and trends can help to an extent. Now, returning back to the questions. So, to summarize it, if I'm somewhat correct, you may find yourself in a very sticky, tricky situation. Maybe things back then weren't perfect, but they were somewhat okay. You found yourself maybe in a new relationship, which was good, but at the same time, balancing it all, still dealing with everything else. And with time, a lot got on top of one, with some crashes or setbacks in between, and not having the true time to recover from that. Pushing back harder to push back against trauma to prove to yourself you are healthy or you can do stuff, but pushing it too much, but understandably, to push hard to also run away from certain thoughts, to push hard to overwork to run away from the toxic people back at home or nearby, but creates that unfortunate cycle loop where pushing too much sends you back to the place you don't want to be or at a certain time. Have you found yourself in situations like that way back in the past in which you're re-experiencing now? Whether you opened up to a potential partner previously about having burnout in the past, losing your voice. Maybe you didn't say what it actually meant losing your voice, but losing your voice is this situation right now. If you've been in those situations way back then as a response to after a bad relationship, after the loss of someone, after when the actual PTSD came about, if you find yourself in that situation again right now, To be honest with yourself, would you say you don't want to let the very person you love most in on what it's like visually, auditory, and reality because you feel in your mind it's not attractive, it's messy, it's complex, and it's the other person doesn't deserve to see it or go through it? Would you say that's your mindset behind shutting people out, including those most closest to you? Oh, sorry, just to answer Slytherin's question, what would I prefer? I would prefer someone with depth, good days and bad days, because it can never be perfect. And if it was perfect, that would be boring as well. I mean, someone's darkness or chaos, that doesn't phase me whatsoever. I mean, I've seen the devil, I've come across situations, etc., etc. I've got stamina, but I can't represent everyone. That's why I've got to keep my mouth shut at times because I can't represent everyone. Same with when I give demonstrations and examples. My thoughts and opinions can't resemble everyone because if it did, well, no, because it doesn't. I need to make sure it's clear like that, or it would give people false hope. Anyway, linking back. You find yourself in a situation where you can't invite someone in, or you've pushed someone away because you feel that you're at your worst internally. You may even, your own thoughts only, may convince yourself visually, appearance wise, because of everything, it's just not a good look. And you fear or worry letting someone in at a time like that. They may be disgusted or be put off, put away, scare them off. Do you find yourself considering that because there was a time in the past you had a health scare and the very person you were with, maybe a previous partner, they just abandoned you on the spot? Has that happened previously? Okay. So, very normal, as in, someone's abandoned you. And again, it may not be the original partner that caused all the abuse, but this other partner, just as an example, who's abandoned you, it's its own trauma, abandonment trauma. You can never feel safe, you can never feel secure because people will always leave and disappear. It's understandable to not want to invite someone in because when it gets too real, it may get messy and other people can't handle it. Well, that's on them, that's their problem, not your problem. But so a person had abandoned you in the past, cowardly behavior. It seems like they were only there for you or with you when you were good. But when things got real, when the relationship was real, oh, they couldn't handle it. They ran away. And then maybe they tried coming back afterwards. Did you find yourself in a situation where you had a health scare, you managed to survive, and then afterwards they tried coming back, reaching out? Did that happen? Did you truly feel disgusted by that? Possibly blocking them in the process because you thought, how dare you come back after all that time? Do you ever get that worry of your actions, or you fear that you never want to become the very thing that hurt you in the first place, like a chain reaction? If you have gone through a trauma response, a deep freeze, and you shut everyone out, do you fear or worry or convince yourself or have doubt that your silence is similar to a past partner's silence in running away or not handling it, and then that fear of what other people will think and how they feel because of it, because of one's actions? because you found yourself on both sides. You've been there on the receiving end. Do you fear that your actions, or more so your trauma responses, have hurt people around you? Okay. What I would say as important advice, you got to make your world smaller. It might already be right now, but what I mean is your social contacts, your connections. If you try reaching out to everyone, it feels like there's a lot of over explaining to do to too many people, and you don't have that energy or capacity to do that. You have to limit who you reach out to in order to reduce that pressure or that fear of returning back. I mean, let's just use this as an example. This is a very small scale example. Sometimes, if you were off, you were ill for whatever reason, or you were bunking off school for whatever reason, days passed by, maybe a week, and then there's that fear of returning back. What have I missed? Are people going to question me? Are people going to wonder where I've been? Do I have to explain myself? Depending on the situation, it can be awkward. It can be a bit, I don't know, maybe distressing. Who knows? Well, then just imagine scaling that up to a more severe, real situation of there's been silence for too long, or at least that's how it feels. There may come a time where you're ready or you just want to reach out, but there's too many people in your life, or enough people in your life that feel like need answers, but you don't have all the answers or the energy to explain it. That will inevitably create a lot of pressure, worry, negativity within, and it may cause you to spiral. I'm only being honest and realistic. So, how can you avoid the spiral? How can you avoid the sinking? But how can you maximize potential healing in some way? Is by minimizing who you reach out to. You have to reach out to the best person you know of, whether that be a partner, whether it be a best friend, or an alternative family member. If you used to be honest to yourself right now, despite the connections and contacts you may have, can you honestly say that you can think of someone in your life, one person who you think highly of the most, and maybe feel the most comfortable around, or did at one point? Is the one person you can separate from everyone else in life, as in who you would hope to reach out to? Okay. So because you're able to potentially identify it, what you need to do, if it's what you really want to do, you have to focus. Focus on that one person, at least for the time being. Because if you think of everything else and everyone else, there's too much to do. In a similar way, it's like some people where there's a lot of jobs, there's a lot of tasks, there's a lot of chores to do. When there's so much to do, when there's so much choice, when there's so much possibility, it can lead to overwhelm. It can lead to the brain fatiguing, and then nothing gets done. But if you focus on one thing at a time, or you just focus on one thing only, the chances of it being done in some way increases. So, all that worry of your friends, your best friends, your family members, your clients, your colleagues, not to sound rude, fuck them. Put them on the sideline. You're in survival mode. If there's at least one person who you think highly of, respect, feel safe and secure around, hold on to that. Whether it be what can propel you forwards in reaching out to that said person, or a slow burn within which can draw you closer to that beacon, that light. What I would say is, if you feel trapped, if you feel imprisoned, if you feel paralyzed, be honest with yourself. Is that how you feel right now, and how you have felt for the last however long months? Okay. So sometimes visual or imaginative learning can help. So let me just give you this example. So if you find yourself imprisoned and trapped wherever you may be, even if it's the place that you call home and how it's gone since, treat it as a prison. That might sound counterproductive, but specifically, if you know of someone in life and you want to reach out to them, in terms of the journey in reconnecting and retouching with them, treat it as prison time. That sounds bad, but as you probably could identify, your situation may be bad. You may feel bad. Treat it as prison, not because you're serving a life sentence for something that you did. It's not about that, but it's about the environment and the feeling, the atmosphere, and it's more so the attitude and the approach that comes with being in prison. Let me just explain, it'll make more sense. You're in prison. What do some people do? They keep the head down to avoid unwanted trouble and attention. They do what they need to do. They bide the time until they're released. Now, for you, it may feel like there is no release date. There is no, way of getting out normally. So you may have to treat it more like prison break. You have to break free at some point, but it's the attitude of you got to keep going and keep things up for the sake of yourself, to avoid any unwanted attention, to avoid any questioning. And every day passes, and every moment you get closer to escaping that prison, physically, psychologically, or both. You bide your time, you wait it out, you plan, you prep, you think everything's going on in here. That's why I said sometimes the silent treatment is important. The people that you're around daily or often, don't give them oxygen, don't give them ammunition, don't give in to their demands or what they say. Don't make it out as in your intentions, or like the prison guards will clamp down on you, you know? So, what is this escape exactly? Is it literally digging a hole in the wall, in the ground, and escaping that way? No. Specifically associated with reaching out to someone is the process of slowly but surely finding a way to reach your hand out of that water you're drowning in. Reach that hand out of that quicksand that you've sunken in, which is like Groundhog Day. You reach out to that said person, and then you go from there. You say as much as you want or as little. And providing it's a person you think highly of, it's likely a person that hasn't changed how they think about you, or at least in terms of their respect to you. Put aside the relationship status, put aside the relationship pressures of commitment, and just a one on one interaction where there's basic respect and familiarity that should remain at least. So you treat it like a prison because it may feel like a prison. You stick with the attitude more so of what is being done. A lot can be done in here without anyone actually seeing what's happening. You know, when you're planning an escape, you're planning a way out, you're planning something, and that can be for you planning the blueprints of how to reach out to someone who can at least ease, bring a bit of peace. I mean, put it this way, if you was to put aside all of your doubts and what ifs and negatives and you had to be honest with yourself, do you have positive reasons for why you want to reach out to someone? Too much for time. Okay. So you've got positive reasons for reaching out to someone. You need to be honest with yourself. You don't have to tell me. You can write it on paper or do whatever. Write down those reasons, those positive reasons, and those positive intent behind it. Because what needs to be done is physical evidence to prove that what you want is what you want and what should be considered, and physical evidence to say that what you're wanting to do or intending to do is actually good for you and benefits you and helps in a way. Whilst within, you know what you want. It's like trying to convince the body, convince the mind, convince every part of you it's what you really want. So then you're more likely to do it without the consequences, without the regret. Now, has there ever been a time in the past, in any situation, where you reached out or they reached out in some way and it felt too soon? Or it felt like it suddenly went from 0 to 100 real quick. You felt that emotion, you felt that connection, but it was too soon and it scared you. And then you had to protect yourself, protect them because you couldn't handle it. Have you been in that situation before? Okay. So you might be wondering, how do you eliminate that worry? How do you avoid that situation? How can you reach out without the deep commitment, which you may not have the energy for in this moment? It's very, very simple. You can word it however you want, but you have to ensure and make sure that if you aren't available or emotionally available, you make that clear to them. It doesn't have to be cold, it just needs to be honest and real. You can reach out, you can say hi, but if you used to say, I'm really low on energy, that would be enough. Because if you're low on energy and they see that, they will know there might not be much you can say or give. Remember, the whole point of being, for example, in a relationship is you can have silent moments in person or digitally without saying anything, but saying a lot in silence. The same can still apply here if handled correctly. Now, whether you've planned it, whether you've considered it, whether you've written it down, being honest with yourself, would you say you have a script or a certain line or certain words? You know what you want to say to that said person. Is that the case? Okay. So that's a good thing. Now, those words and those lines you could say to them. You don't have to say it to them all in one go. You could say a little bit here and then a little bit there. It's not about breadcrumbs. It's not about leading anyone on. It's about doing what you can possibly do within your reason, within your energy and limit. You have to remind yourself that. It's like it can be exciting reaching out and reconnecting again, but it's about being grounded with what you're capable of, what you can do, and what you can't. You need to establish your limits and limitations and possibly even make it clear with them. Because if they're a good person, then they should understand, regardless. I've done some videos in the past about recovery, healing in certain areas. Focus on the small things, focus on what can be done instead of what can't be done. If you focus on what can't be done, it'll just convince your mind that there's no hope, you're broken, and then that's it, game over. It'll just give more reasons and more excuses to say there's no point trying or doing anything because it won't work. But if you can focus on what can work, even if it's small, then it can encourage the mind to try or be consistent with whatever. But then the same can apply with reaching out or reconnecting with someone, as in you're honest with yourself, as in what you can give, what you can do. Now, if you had to be honest with yourself, despite everything, do you feel like you need to make up for lost time with that said person? Would you say so? Okay. And would you say, with making up for lost time, whether that relationship was early, arm's length, it didn't fully progress to what you originally wanted, despite that, do you feel that there is an intense feeling of wanting to make up for lost time, but also slightly worried in how to and how much energy you have to be able to fulfill that? Is that the possible conflict of worry? Okay. All you can do is focus in the moment in real time. Let me think of an example. Do you have the fear, the worry of what wasn't done back then is something you feel you want to do right now, as in meeting up with them in person or showing your true self visually, in a sense, with them? As in, it feels like that is the push that's needed or partially wanted to make up for that lost time to try and make that leap again, but also break through more than ever. I'll try and think. Okay, let me think of an example as well, because I want to give examples to try and highlight, whether you call it abstract art or not, highlight the intense emotions within, from positive to frustrations, anger, darkness, and all that, because it's a mixture. If you had to be honest with yourself, do you have that urge where you could metaphorically grab that said person to hold them tight, to feel their heart, to feel real, grounded, to feel safe, secure, to even be in a completely different environment and location, away from that silence, away from that trapped imprisonment, and in a real space with that real person who you never got the chance to do before all this? To feel that groundedness and to see the person in real life. Is it that thought of, it didn't happen back then, so how could it possibly happen right now? To elaborate on that, as in when you were with that said partner, whilst you were silently struggling and getting by as best as you could before the crash, you were still holding them at arm's length for the sake of your safety and in a way for the sake of them as well. Finding your feet along the way, sometimes pushing harder than other days, and then thinking, is it going too fast? Is it too much? And then backing away a little bit. Dealing with the people in the background as well, friendships, having to communicate with them as normal and clients or colleagues while still trying to be real for that said partner, in which it's a lot to handle. Then comes around maybe health issues, which adds to the weight of everything. Sometimes, besides the trauma and the PTSD, it can be the health struggles as well, which can make you feel, oh, I don't want to show that side to that person because I want to be perfect. I want to be that ideal, whatever. But if a relationship is going to be real, the imperfections need to show. The the messy moments need to show. But maybe that wasn't even possible back then. Um, so with this silence ever since, with however long it's gone on for, the feelings haven't gone away. Is it possible that the feelings and the desires have intensified to a very, very high level? So if there is that feeling, that intensified feeling of connection or desire or touch, whatever it is, does it create an unrelenting restlessness within your bones, within your body. Even if you're paralyzed by fear, paralyzed by trauma and health issues, you have a heavy, unresolved desire and things to fulfill. I mean, if you do, understandably, it can be uncomfortable, but it's still a positive to show that light or that fire within you hasn't been put out by all the other mess that's going on. Arguably speaking, despite possibly feeling drained and tired, there is still that boost within to say that you're not completely lost, and not everything has been taken from you. It may feel impossible to claim back, to reclaim, to reconnect, but in order for any action to be taken, you need to have that attitude and that knowledge to begin with. Based on the reactions here, you have that, which is the most important part. It's just trying to work out what happens next. What do I think? Let's just give another little example, if possible. If you had to be honest with yourself, if tomorrow was a different day, for that one moment, that 1 minute, or that hour, do you wish you could shove aside all those toxic people from about, put aside all those friends and best friends that you know of, as good and nice as they are? You haven't got the time for them. You just want to push them all aside. You want to locate that one person, and you just simply want to, in a basic way, communicate with about whatever, mess about, be lighthearted, joke, but in a real way. No longer as a no longer as a hideout, no longer as like complete escapism or running, like the feeling of no longer running away, but running in the direction of danger, but being catched in the process. Catched as in supported or perspective given along the way. I'm getting really thirsty. I must be doing a lot of talking. Ultimately, you know what's most important and what makes it possible for you. If one, and we'll do this checklist right now just to go back over it because this is groundbreaking and important. If you had to be honest, how do you know if they catch you? Well, it's based on patterns and trends. If how you felt previously in a positive way you can identify with again, and it's through consistency, that would be the example. It's not physically being caught, it's more so mentally, and caught not in catched or trapped, but more cushioned when one falls. But to those watching in the background, if you had to be honest with yourself, would you say that, first of all, you have someone in mind who you want and you have a hunger for? And then, secondly, would you say you have in mind exactly what you want to do and the intent behind it? Devoted, welcome. If you're here with the Kenny Veach case, feel free to rewind back to the beginning. This is the second part of the live. Okay, so for those that have reacted there, as in you know what you want, you know who you want, you've got that hunger, you know what you want to do, you have your true intentions as well. What that is, you have the start and you have the end. You have both ends of like the bookcase. The book ends, the beginning and the end, and that's what's most important. Everything else in between could be a bit uncertain, unsure, and unknown of. But it's important to have a beginning, which you have demonstrated, whoever that person is. You've demonstrated the beginning part, which is needed to be able to do anything, as in that attitude, that mindset. You have a target, you have a person, you have someone. And it's important that to know that you've got someone in life, because if you have no one or no thought, you've got no direction. So it can make everything harder. So you need to acknowledge to yourself that by having that knowledge, first of all, that direction is massive. And then, as for that end part, what you want to do, what you wish for, it shows that there is a direction, which may be something you've not had or felt in other ways, because, like with trauma, it's not linear. Recovery in trauma, it's not linear. So many steps forwards, so many steps back in different directions. But if in this situation, it's a bit more linear, that's a good sign. And what's important isn't to fear or worry about the midsection of the bookshelf. The midsection of the chapters of a book, they can be filled out along the way, and not just by you, but by with the other person. So Leela says, I have two good friends and they're supportive. So that's a good example. What Leela demonstrates there is a good example of what's being talked about here. Granted, what I'm talking about is more a relationship, and I'm using a relationship as an example because technically it's a little bit more deeper. And I like to use deeper examples and worst case scenarios and more extreme situations, because then if that can be resolved, then other situations which are less severe may be easier to deal with. Deal with the hardest, deal with the most complex, and then everything else becomes a little bit easier. A little bit. So yeah, I'm talking a bit fast, so I'll just slow down for a second. Now, if you had to be honest with yourself, do you want to reach out to them, or do you want them to reach out to you? Because for them to reach out to you, there needs to be a channel in communicating if there is a way. But if there is a roadblock or true distance, there's not much that they can do, which would mean it would be for you to reach out. And that's just being realistic. Because if there's no way of reaching out, as in from their point of view, then they can't connect. As well, another question to those who may be in the background: would you say you've made attempts to reach out to that said person, but you didn't follow through with it? Maybe a few occasions where you were going to type on the keyboard, you were going to do something, but you ended up not because it felt too much, the pressure or the worry. Okay. So if I had to picture it in my mind visually, this may not apply to anyone, it might not apply whatsoever, but if I had to like visually describe it how it could appear, if you wonder why I give examples to make a person feel less isolated in that sense. So specifically in a situation, there could be a trauma survivor dealing with a lot and this deep freeze. They could be sat up in bed against the headboard. The phone is beside them. The lighting is quite dark. The curtains are closed. The body, the muscles feel a bit achy and sore. The chest feels a bit heavy. The breathing is slightly labored and low. The lights from the curtains may flicker just a little bit, which causes a bit of irritancy with the eyes and a little bit of distress. There might be that feeling of wanting to slide underneath that cushion or that pillow or that sheeting. At some points, there might be that thought of looking down at the phone and thinking, oh shit, there's a lot of commitment on that phone. There's a lot of demands, a lot of expectations, there's a lot of promises to fulfill. How do I deal with it? Too much to handle, too much going on, easier to shut it all out. Minimize, shut the world, close the world, make it smaller, a little bit more manageable to deal with because of everything else that's already going on. But then there might come a time where there's a bit more strength, or there's that want, that need. You have a dream about someone. You consider or think of someone, so you decide to get that phone. You turn that phone on. Your hand is trembling. Your fingers are stiff. You feel frozen. You feel like your joints have stiffened up. Your mind is telling you, or your heart is telling you what to do next and what to say. But your body isn't quite communicating because your nervous system is under attack because of the trauma and all of that. That could be complex PTSD. Mind, body, heart, body disconnect. One thing's pulling you in one way, the other one is holding you back. So it creates a standoff where maybe nothing is done in that moment. And then later, there might be a negative self-reflection of, oh, I failed again. I didn't do it. Another day gone by. And then it just leads to self-punishment, which is unfair, but it can happen. But there might be a time where you do grab that phone, you turn it on. You might even look back at old messages or screenshots of happier times, or even moments to look back on as a way of self-punishment. You know, it can happen. Inner critique, blaming yourself, looking at it. Oh, I should have responded. I should have said something. I should have done it differently. I should have handled it better. I made promises and I didn't follow through with it this time around. It can lead to a lot of that. It's like there's an angel and a demon on the shoulders during that moment of trying to send a message. You might, let's say if you've blocked that person just because you couldn't deal with it at the time back then, you may unblock them. You may look back at the messages. You may secretly look at the messages, the blocked messages, and then that dread, that drop of the heart. Oh no, they've sent more messages after this period. You know, like when a person sends messages saying, are you okay? Checking on in. I wish things could go back to normal. I miss you. Things like that. You look at it passively in the background because, you know, mobile devices, you can block someone, you can have a spam, a block folder, you can look back at messages without even them knowing that you saw the messages. You know, you can look back at messages without the other person being notified that you saw them. There's many different ways of being anonymous. So you're like a silent watcher, a silent observer in their life because you want to still be around them, but you can't be in person or too seen by them. So it's like a spy, but not with bad intent. You look at that phone every now and then, or you look at the odd message and you think, I need to say something. I need to break this silence. I need to do something, but you just don't have the energy. You don't have the capacity. You don't have the energy to be able to commit, but you want to. So feeling wise, you may want to, but physically, you may not know how to. Is that somewhat of an accurate description you may find yourself in? Okay. So whilst you're in a crossroad, there's that realization of, yeah, there is a person or people around you, maybe living with you or very close by, but it's the one person you don't want to reach out to or say anything to as in a toxic individual. So it's like isolated, but in the presence of some people, but not people you can connect with. And it's people that can cause you more trouble than good. And then there's someone a bit further away that can be a beacon, a light. And then there's other people about, maybe friends, good people, but that's not really ideal. If you had to be honest with yourself, whilst you may get the urge to shut the world out, do you feel that urge where you could hit a reset button, put everything aside in life just to focus on rebuilding your life and your heart with someone, that particular person? Is that a thought you have, a feeling you've considered? Okay. So, for you to have that thought, whether it seems a million miles away or not, the fact that you have that thought is the thing that you need to hold on to forever. Not as in being stuck or tied with someone, but just what you want. Because again, a severe trauma response you may find yourself in and what you're surrounded by normally would make a person feel dead. I know that sounds negative, but it's being realistic. Normally, you probably feel absolutely nothing, numb, disconnected, disassociated with the world, and not knowing what's right from what's wrong in a very vulnerable place. It's understandable if a person is in that way, yeah. But what I'm saying is, for anyone to react the way they've done anonymously tonight is living proof and evidence that whatever that darkness is hasn't killed you, and in a way hasn't killed that potential of reaching out to someone. It does come down to considering who you're reaching out to and what they're like and how they react and respond. Of course, if you have any doubts, as in if they're a bad person or any red flags, then you don't have to reach out. But if you truly believe deep down within that a said person is good for you and long term, with the momentum that you have, with what you showed tonight, you need to hold on to memorize, to write it down. Because, arguably speaking, in terms of healing and recovery, if you're in a severe place, this is a massive sign of progression and healing. And even if it's something like this you've held on to all this time, it's still important. Might not apply to everyone, but if it applies to at least one person, it needs to be considered. Now, one other question. If you had to be honest to yourself, would you say that that one person you think very highly of, just being honest, to be balanced, do you have any negative thoughts or any red flags or any bad feelings, any bad gut feelings about that said person? Sit down just for a second. Would you say the feelings and the thoughts that you do have towards someone, are they all positive? Okay. Okay. Well, that's good. That's obviously a good thing. Now, again, I can't represent everyone, you know? For anyone that who may be watching in the background with everything what we've said up to now, would you want my type of response or from the other side what I would think or want from them? As in from the survival, if I knew of someone, what would I want from them? Okay. If I was in a situation where I knew of someone in a situation like this, what we've been talking about, I would want them to be as real and honest as they can be because I'm not going anywhere. So if a person was a bit dark, a bit rough, a bit pissed off, and that's normal, it happens, it's understandable, it's expected to be that way with what's happened because I would be confident, and I would tell myself, no matter how dark that person is, it's not because of me, it's because of others, it's because of the past. So I don't have to worry about my ability or anything like that. I just need to be present in their space if there was a situation like that. Not because I have to, but because I would want to. Again, not everyone's like that. I would want them to reach out without having to carry a debt. Play it this way. I would want them to reach out without feeling the need to make it up to me. And I'll touch upon that in another way as well, because it kind of ties in with the past when I was giving examples of scenarios where a survivor may feel like they want to, or they may need to make it up to someone that they care about because they feel like they've let them down in a smaller situation. That could be through intimacy, it could be through anything. And they'll say, "Oh, I'll make it up to you. I promise, I promise." Sometimes that's a survival mechanism, people pleasing. They technically want to because of who it is, but at the same time, they may not feel ready or prepared, but they feel the need to because they don't want to lose that person or disappoint them or for the other person to think less of them. A coping mechanism. And I said in the past, what's important for the other half, the other partner, speaking of other people in that situation, is to accept what they're offering, as in making it up to you, but giving them the time and the space by saying, can we delay it? Can we do it later? Can we do it tomorrow? Because you're not dismissing them, but you're giving them time in their own right to calm, to cool down if they need to possibly have the time to question or think, do they want to do it or not? And then if they don't, then it doesn't have to happen. And you don't have to dismiss them either. It's just like a very specific, smooth, natural way of doing it. How does that link to right now, though, in this scenario? Well, if a person had reached out, they wanted to give a lot, they wanted to do a lot, but physically, realistically, it just wasn't possible. I wouldn't demand them to do anything they aren't ready for, etc. We kind of touched upon a bit earlier, you know, if you've got that urge, and we'll just say it again, just for the sake of consistency, so then I can respond back with the scenario. If you had to be honest with yourself, would you say you wish you could run a million miles and drag your body over shards of glass for the sake of being able to feel their heart in a park as it rains down? Is that a sensation that you consider? As in to show your face, your voice, your presence, that you want to show everything of you to them and give everything within to them. that maybe you find every single day, every second, or at least it feels like that, holding on to a memory of them because it's what gets you through the day. And that slight, tiny little hope that something can become real and come from that. Anything you talked about in the past, joked around with, role play, messing about, it could be anything, right? It could be in silence, in the same house, the same room, watching a film, or sitting in a park or on a hill as there's thunder and clouds, or it could be shopping and buying clothes and I was going to say the changing rooms, but then that'll be taken out of context. But funny moments, positive moments, real moments, intimate moments, basic moments, small scale moments, silent moments, all of it. Would you say you've lived all that out like a picture, a film in your own mind for all this time of everything you want to do with them? Has that been the situation? Okay. So it's that conflict of it feeling very real within, but physically it's just not there because of obviously the withdrawal, the isolation, and even simply the arm's length. Because if the relationship to begin with was at a certain pace and at a distance, and it never came to that conclusion, um, it feels so close, but yet so far away. And obviously, all the other factors around and in life doesn't help either. But what matters is right now. You've held on to something for so long, you've not let go. Because this is the important thing. Look, I'm being honest, this is all anonymous, but the reactions from a person to people is a good sign. What it shows is, as like a demonstration, withdrawal, shutting out the whole world. And maybe to the other half, the other person about may not know what's going on in the dark. But as like an example here, in a way, you've shut the world out, but you never stopped caring. You shut the world out, you've isolated, but you never stopped loving someone. So the trauma has happened, but the true self within is still there, which was never lost. It's just the length of time it's gone on for, it seems difficult to claw back out of. Possibly, if that applies to you. So, to refer back to reaching out, my perspective in a scenario would be a person reaching out may have a lot to say and may have a lot to do and what they want to do, but none of it has to happen if you're not ready. None of it has to happen, or not all of it has to happen in the moment. It can take time. But all I would want and hope for is for it to be real. No BS, just real, whether that be positive or negative. A person's darkness isn't going to push or scare me because I can only speak for myself. My stamina, unrivaled, unyielding, undying. And I've dealt with other humans over time too. So I've got experience in other situations. But I understand that dynamic, the dynamic of a lot of energy within, but controlling it. Not giving too much, not throwing out too much because it can lead to regret or, "Oh, I've jumped in too fast. I've jumped in at the deep end. I wouldn't want a person to jump in at the deep end." If anything, if one is to jump, not to be taken out of context, metaphorically speaking, both jump at the same time. If How about this? If you have ever found yourself taking a massive leap of faith previously, that was individual, maybe. Does it have to be now? Or can it be a shared leap of fate to get to a certain destination which is equally shared? Now, for anyone watching in the background, if you had to be honest with yourself, based on what you want and your desires, would you say, would you be confident and sure that's what the other person wants? The person that you think of, would you say that your desires and wants match what they want as well? Okay. Now, this may be specific, but just whilst we're here, would you want a scenario, as in a discrete way of me giving my thoughts in response to that? Right. So, if I had to connect in and lock in what I sense, what I sense, what that person wants is exactly what I would want as well. No questions asked. What's going on in the comment section? Just want to say, welcome to anyone else watching in the background this live. You can always rewind back to the beginning if you want to learn more about the case of Kenny. But locking back in, I match align with their mind. I said I can sense stuff at times and I can, you know, I can think very specific, but I don't always let on for the sake of people's privacy. Let's put it that way. Understandably, I probably think of many different scenarios where I might say a lot and it might not scare people, but make people think, oh, they see me or they know. Sometimes it's because I think of all the different situations, but then other times it's because I can, I don't know, maybe telepathically connect, communicate with someone. So, because we're getting towards the end because of the time, what other things could be acknowledged? I think the first thing to acknowledge is for those that have watched, shout out. For those that have watched in the background, shout out as well. And for those that have communicated along the way, big shout out too. This is all progression at the end of the day. Even if it's just being honest with yourself, that's progression. There is no set time, there is no deadline when to reach out or when to connect. But, you know, by making it as small as possible, as I said earlier, to make reaching out easier, there are certain steps to follow. In no particular order, the steps of reconnecting can consist of reducing your world and your contact list. Just focusing in on one primary person to build your life, to reconnect, to reheal, to do all that, but at a steady pace. Focus on only one person in your life, the best person in your life, if possible. Reducing all the background stress and worry of making up to them, pleasing other people. They can all wait, right? You focus on just one person, the right person for you, and go from there. Because there's a time and place where you need to devote your time of being deserving of healing or resting or sharing or relieving some of that strain instead of always having to fight every battle on the mountaintop as a lone wolf. It doesn't always have to be that way. Things can change, but slowly as well, by reaching out, by making it easier, reducing commitment, reducing stress, reducing any regret, or reducing any feelings of can't give much, can't do much, retreating. Removing that issue is just being honest when you actually reach out through a text message, social media, whichever platform, wherever. If it helps, creating a brand new account and sending a message to them so you don't have to look back at the old chat of how things last ended, because that could trigger its own negativity. A fresh, clean slate, but being real with yourself and them when connecting. A simple hi, a simple, I don't have the energy right now, I just wanted to say hi, that can go a long, long way. It's a win win. Saying something like that, you get to release that energy. You get to prove to yourself that you were able to do it. You may feel a bit less isolated. There is hope. There's that connection again. And for them, they may feel heard as well. It could benefit them as well. So it can go both ways. As said, reaching out doesn't mean having to tick every box and fulfill every requirement, every dream, every desire. It doesn't have to be done overnight. That can happen with time. Most important part is at least having a plan in what you want and what you want to do. And for some people watching, that seems to be the case. That's the most important part. The fact that some people may have acknowledged that they've got an idea longer term, even if it can't be done immediately, that longer term aspect is a massive positive, because if previously you felt that you can't look beyond your own feelings because you're stuck in the past, you're stuck in a current situation, or you were back then before the severe storm, yet you find yourself now knowing what you want down the line, that's massive. That's a big positive. Maybe you can journal it on paper as well. You got the start, you got the end, you fill out in between as you go along when reconnecting with someone, daily check ins or weekly check ins or monthly check ins. A bit of routine without it being a chore, and it being both ways as well. As long as you're honest, you know, then there shouldn't be a need for demand, expectations, or pressure. It should be simple, it should be easy, it should be basic. Now, to fulfill that, if possible, those watching in the background, would being honest with yourself, would you say that said relationship that you were in previously or recently, even if it was arm's length, would you say that relationship felt not complex and it felt light, it felt good for you and healthy? Would you say? Okay. So what's good for you could be what's meant for you. It didn't just come out of nowhere. It wasn't just random. It was meant for you. It was real. Rev is flabbergasted. So what's real, what's meant for you, and what's good for you, is it honestly going to pass by you in life just like that and give up and that's it? Game over? Not exactly. If it's meant to be, it won't just pass by. There are ways of paths crossing again at some point, whether that be now or later. Maybe there was a time in the past where before things were more difficult as they are now, your mentality was loyalty and not giving up on someone. Would you say that was the case? Even if they gave up on themselves or they were a negative person, you tried looking beyond that. Because if you found yourself in that situation being like that for them then, well, then maybe now's the time for someone different, someone else to not give up on you this time round. But the only way a person can um, not give up on you and to be there is for you to let them in. So there's a bit of giving and taking. There's a bit you've got to do, there's a bit that they've got to do. It's not being negative, but it's like if you keep the door closed, how can they show up? Like what we said earlier about trauma, abuse, what some weaponize and used against you, what others are using now, and how you can use it yourself, but not as a sword to hurt people, but as a shield to protect yourself. Well, the other way of talking, in terms of your attitude, that's what you need to remind yourself, your attitude and intent way back then with a bad partner, an abusive situation. Back then, your intent, your attitude may have been to look beyond, to hope for the best, to see the best in them, even when they were dark and they caused problems, to not give up on them. You did everything right, did nothing wrong. This situation right now, or at some point, is for the other person, as in a new partner, naturally, to be the one that reminds you of who you are, who you were in terms of natural good ways, and then also what they can do for you too. But in order for any of that to happen, as hard as it is, because it is, there needs to be a level of communication both ways. All the pressure is not on you and it's not on them, it's shared. Ask yourself this, if you had to be honest with yourself. Previously, when you took that leap of faith to connect for the very first time with that new partner, would you say it was a scary thing to do, but did it pay off at the time in a positive way? My goodness, I think my hairline is getting worse by the second the longer I go on this live stream. Shit. Anyway, right, okay. So if what you're saying is when you took that leap of faith originally to get with or to start that relationship with that new partner, the good person, if it was positive, but it was scary at first because of the unknown, the uncertainty, and because of the past, but it did work out, at least early stages. What that shows is you trusted your heart, even if everything was telling you not to. You trusted your heart and it absolutely worked. The decision that you made back then, you absolutely nailed it for the right reasons. That's living proof and evidence which can never be removed. You made the right call, the right decision for you. You did the hardest part already in making the first move, the first step. So this time round, still difficult in its own way. You've got experience now. You've got proof now. So whenever you consider picking up that phone or trying to reconnect, getting a bit closer, you remind yourself you've already done the hard work from the very start. You reached out, you connected with them, you privately messaged them. Regardless of what happened after that, arm's length or this deep freeze, it's the beginning that matters. And like what we said before, you've already got an idea of the beginning, as in what you want and who you want. So it aligns perfectly. And in terms of the end outcome, which doesn't mean it's the complete end, it's the start forwards, but as in the latter stage, put it that way, would be right now or when ready, taking the next leap of faith, as in not connecting for the first time, but reconnecting. Reconnecting with someone you're familiar with technically could be easier than connecting with someone who you don't really know much about. Still, there can be that uncertainty, of course, uncertainty with someone you don't know. Who are they? How will they be behind closed doors? Like how there could be uncertainty now with, well, I know this person, but how are they going to react after all this time? You got to trust your heart. If you trusted your heart back then, even when everything was telling you no, but it worked, trust your heart now in regard to reaching out, whatever that decision is, whatever those desires and wants are, whether it be something you want or something you don't want, it's okay to trust. It doesn't always have to be positive. It could be negative. It could be negative of that said person. If it's a genuine red flag, you don't have to be forced or pressured into reaching out to someone you think you have to, or feeling like you have to repay someone. It shouldn't have to be like that. You reach out because you genuinely want to. And if you find yourself in that position, then that leap of faith can be considered. And when there's ever any doubt or worry, you remind yourself, you've been here before, you did it, it worked, it was fine. There is proof that you can make the right decision, the best case scenario for you. The same can happen again here. This time round, you have more control, as in what you say to them. You can say as much or as little to them. But as long as you make it clear and honest, you can't go wrong. So, with that being said, it is getting really late now. So just as a heads up, are people satisfied? If you can let me know in some way, are you satisfied with if we were to end at this checkpoint? Unless it's too abrupt. Satisfied, that's good. Okay. That's good to know. So yeah, just to tie up any loose ends, I would say if I was in a situation, if I knew of someone in these situations, I would say all I want from that said person in the background, all I would want from them is for them to be somewhat happy and mostly safe, whatever that means. If that entails reaching out or if it means not reaching out because it's too much. If a person doesn't want to reach out, that's fine. I understand. If a person does want to reach out, if possible, hopefully that is possible. Because I said a person should never be forced or pressured into doing something they don't want to or not ready for. But if there is that push, that boost within, then it should be acknowledged and considered. If you've already made leap of fates and it worked, well, then it can work again. If it's with the same person, well, then the chances are significantly higher because you've got patterns, you've got trends. And sometimes that's what you need for guidance. I like how I'm talking about reconnecting, and people in the chat are talking about summoning bloody demons. Oh my God, what a parallel. But that's what makes it unique. I can just babble on and other people can have other conversations. So it's like multitasking. Anyway, at least Haaland scored 2 goals tonight. So that means I've got a good amount of points in fantasy football, which makes everything a lot more calmer for me. Good. It's about all this deep stuff tonight, and then I'm just talking about football just then. Where's my priorities at? Anyway, I would say as for tonight, it's been extremely productive. And again, with what you said anonymously tonight, you can always write it down on paper just for that physical evidence. Or if you ever have any doubt or second thoughts, just come back to this video. I don't think the live reactions are recorded, so you wouldn't be able to see it again. But like, as for the questions or the answers for that second opinion or that double confirmation, you can always look back at it, you know? But right now, the most important thing is to relax as best as you can and get sleep. Nothing has to be done overnight. Nothing has to be done drastically or fast right now. Just to focus on one thing at a time, which could be sleep. So there's enough energy for tomorrow or whenever. Anyway, I'll do a countdown now. Bloody hell. What's going on there? Dr. F, take 2 and call in the morning. Who's calling me? An apple a day keeps the doctor away, but there might be some people that will avoid the apple because they want that doctor up close. Excuse me? I don't know. Anyway, I'm going to do a countdown now from 20. Any final thoughts, leave in the chat. Then once I've got down to 0, we'll leave the live stream there. So, 20, 19, 18, 17, 16, 15, 14, 13, 12, 11, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And there we go, 0. So just as like a microcosm of how it's gone tonight for some or one in the background, I see that timing, that synchronicity with the hearts paired with the countdown, like how it was previously. So that's still there. That's still consistent. That is a sign itself, which is good. Yeah, take care, Leela. Besides synchronicity, interactional synchronicity can be another thing too. Mimicking another person, but in a playful or intimate way. It's a way of connecting and whatnot. So we'll leave it there for now. Seems all good. Shout out to everyone that has watched, and of course, those watching in the background. Much appreciated. So take care Sleep well, and yeah, I'll see you tomorrow or the day after. We'll see. So yeah, goodbye and good night.